Hello and welcome to the show, my friends, my V friends. Welcome back. It's a Tuesday afternoon. It's a Tuesday afternoon, and we're talking taxes soon. And I'm here to say hello and welcome you to the show. So, for posterity, this is a live stream that's happening on Twitter Spaces. I'll be routing here as well. So thanks for watching. On my Jeremy Knows VF Twitter, we're going to be talking with Manisha and KateCPA.eth about NFT taxes. So I've been sharing a little bit about what I've collected, sitting in on Twitter Spaces, talking to accountants, and I'm very excited to bring the professionals into the room and share with you what they have to say. So to get some true expert verification on what's what. So I'm going to go ahead and start the space now and load it into the screen for you. So I'll be looking at my phone. It won't be that interesting to watch, but should be great to listen to. And let's get started. We are here. We're alive. Okay. Let's turn my mic on and let me share my screen. And hello, everyone. Wow, a bunch of people popping in already. If you'd like to come up and ask questions with our guests, please do raise your hand. I'm just getting set up on my... I'm also streaming this on Twitch, in fact. So,
or guests,
awesome.
Please do raise your hand.
Landon,
just getting set up on my.
Landon, I invited you to co-host.
Also streaming this on Twitch.
You should be able to.
So, awesome. Landon. Landon, I invited you to co-host. You should be able to.
Wow, big room already. Good to see everybody. Happy holidays and all the rest. Looking for our guests. Let me send them this way. Landon, I've sent you a request, so you'll have to accept it.
Wow, big room already.
Share this
Good to
via
see everybody. Happy holidays
DM
and all the rest.
To our friends.
Looking for our guests. Let me send them this way. Landon, I've sent you a request, so you'll have to accept it.
Hey, Kate, bringing you up right now. Good morning.
DM to our friends, Kate.
Good morning, Kate.
And Monisha. Hey, Kate, bringing you up right now. Good morning.
Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning, Kate.
So, just for everyone's edification,
thank you so much for
Kate is
for setting up this space.
I can hear you now, Landon. Yes, I sure can.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. Welcome
to the stage. I just want to let everybody know a little bit about Kate.
Jeremy, can you hear
highly
me?
experienced in the space. I think I
Amazing.
read that she's been sort of
I've been
in this world since 2017. Is also an NFT collector, an investor in cryptocurrency, and is a certified CPA and very knowledgeable in the field. I want to actually pin to the space her pin tweet, which kind of has a brief of the answers, the general answers to questions. So like, I would save the tweet that I just pinned, as it has a lot of the basics, but I'm looking forward, Kate, to diving into certain examples and some of the features on this graphic you posted where it says depends, like with giveaways and airdrops. That's some of my biggest questions. But I think also just generally there's a lot of confusion about what are taxable events and what are not. So I'm just really grateful that you're here today.
Features on this graphic you posted where it says depends, like with giveaways and airdrops. That's some of my biggest questions. But I think also just generally there's a lot of confusion about what are taxable events and what are not. So I'm just really grateful that you're here today.
Sure, Jeremy. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that tweet too. And that was really the goal in creating those infographics, was to just at least get the basic information out there so that people in the community could understand what was going to trigger a taxable transaction and what wasn't. And then from there, we can
right.
go into more specifics about how much, of
Right,
the
absolutely.
transaction is
And
taxable.
I think the way
what
to
the
like just get
tax
the
is
most
that's
value for
ultimately
people is
owed.
to
But if
do
you're
Q&A. So
transacting and you don't know
if you're
what's triggering
comfortable
a
with that, I'd
taxable
like to
event
get
and
to it
what's
as soon as
not, then you're
possible.
really in the dark. So at least if you
Right.
have the basics
and
down,
sort of share
that's a good
something that
starting
I've
point.
shared with
Yep.
my
Right,
community, and so maybe
absolutely.
you can
And I
confirm
think
or
the way
deny
to just get the
what
most
I've been
value for
saying is
people
that there are
to do
4
Q&A. So
types of
if you're
taxable
comfortable
events
with
in
that, I'd like to
crypto,
get
and
to it as
there
soon as
when you
possible.
convert crypto back into fiat, provided that you've realized a gain.
Something that I've shared
When
with
you
my
convert
community,
crypto
so
to
maybe you can confirm or
cryptocurrency, some
deny
other, ETH
what
to
I've been
wrapped
saying is
ETH
that there
or
are
to Bitcoin or
4
whatever.
types of
Then when you earn
taxable events in
crypto
crypto,
through
and
staking
there when
rewards,
you
and I think that's where
convert crypto back
airdrops and
into
giveaways also
fiat,
factor in.
provided that
And then
you
when you
realize
spend
a gain,
crypto, like
when
when
you
you're
convert
realizing a
crypto to
gain on
cryptocurrency,
Ethereum that
some
you've
other,
been holding
ETH
to
to
purchase
wrapped
an
ETH
NFT.
or to Bitcoin or
Is that
whatever.
generally accurate,
Then
or
when
am I
you
missing
earn
something
crypto
considerable
through
there?
staking rewards, and I think that's where airdrops and giveaways also factor in. And then when you spend crypto, like when you're realizing a gain on Ethereum that you've been holding to purchase an NFT. Is that
Okay.
generally accurate, or am I missing something considerable there?
Yeah, so those are all examples of taxable transactions. Apart from the piece on, airdrops and staking rewards.
Okay.
The other 3 that you talked about are all capital gains related transactions. The staking and airdrops are going to be
Got it. Can you give us a brief
income
explanation
rates.
of tax on ordinary
yeah,
income versus
earning
capital
cryptocurrency
gains?
from any type of
Are
work
those in
would also be
two
taxable,
mutually exclusive
income
buckets?
to you as well. That was just the last piece to add there.
Got it. Can you give us a brief explanation of tax on ordinary income versus capital gains? Are those in two mutually exclusive buckets?
So capital gains is is one general taxable bucket, and capital gains, it's important to remember, encompasses stock-related transactions, crypto transactions, and NFT transactions. So all of those types of taxable events fall under the same capital gains bucket. So your capital losses, for example, from a stock transaction can offset capital gains from crypto or NFT transactions, which a lot of people forget about. So that's a helpful distinction as well. And then you're correct that
Okay,
sort of ordinary
fantastic.
income is a separate taxable
Before we move forward,
bucket.
I want to just welcome
And
up
ordinary income can
Manisha.
come
I hope
from
I'm saying your name
varying
right.
sources
And
like earned income
Landon,
from work,
if you wouldn't mind
staking rewards,
introducing
and
her
then
to the
airdrop
crowd. And I
income
also
as
want to
well.
let folks know that
Okay,
this
fantastic.
space is being recorded for everyone.
Before
So
we move forward,
if you're uncomfortable having your voice recorded,
Manisha, I hope I'm saying
you
your
can
name
just
right.
DM
And,
or tweet at me,
Landon,
and I
if you
can
wouldn't
pass on
mind,
your questions.
introducing
but Landon, would you like to give
her to the
an
crowd?
intro for
I also
everyone?
want to let folks know that this space is being recorded for everyone. So if you're uncomfortable having your voice recorded,
yes, but you
can
sound
just
like
DM
you're
or tweet
in
at me, and I can
a
pass
echo
on your
chamber.
questions. But Landon, would you like to give an intro for everyone?
It's okay. There's always a learning curve with this kind of stuff.
Hey, Jared, can you hear me?
Yes, but you
Not
sound
really.
like you're in a
That's
echo
okay
chamber.
though. That's a bit better.
Oh, wow. Okay, hang on. Let me see if I can unecho chamber myself.
It's okay. There's always
Is it still
this kind of stuff.
All right, but that was a fun. Whoa!
Not really.
I don't know. Now it's very loud for me.
Yeah,
maybe
so
that's just me.
my name is Landon, and
Yeah, it's very loud. If you can sound issues, Manish.
Whoa!
Yeah, that's
I don't know.
better.
Now it's very loud for me. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah, no, it's
Wait,
yeah.
It's everybody. It's very
You're
loud.
good. You're good. I can hear you.
If Landon's having sound,
we can hear
Hey,
you.
Jared,
I think
can you hear
Landon
me?
might be getting rugged.
Yeah, that's better.
I'm gonna go ahead and send him back,
You're good.
and
You're
we'll
good.
try
I can hear
again. Manisha,
sure
would
you
you
guys
mind
can
just
hear.
introducing yourself to the crowd
we
so
can hear
they
you. I think
understand?
Landon might be getting
I was
rugged.
able to check you out. I see that you're a CPA in Canada.
I'm gonna go ahead and
it's
send
really
him,
appreciated that you're here
send
today.
him
So I'd
back,
love if you
and
could just
we'll
say
try
hello to
again.
everybody.
Manisha, would you mind just introducing yourself to the crowd so they understand? I was able to check you out. I see that you're a CPA in Canada, and it's really appreciated that you're here today. So I'd love if you could just say hello to everybody.
Hi, Jeremy. Hi, Kate. Thank you so much for having me. I guess Landon too, but he's not here right now. He's gone and been rugged, I guess. Hi, yeah. I am a Canadian CPA, specialized in tax and crypto and NFTs. And I guess a little bit about me is I started my journey probably 2016, 2017 into the crypto space. And then earlier this year, really got into NFTs, and then, yeah, decided to kind of give back to the community I've been a part of with NFTs, and help to spread kind of like financial education and empower people and really get them looking at and understanding, what's going to impact them this upcoming year, and so that people, can kind of keep that in the back of their minds. We have some like pretty awesome investors, and so I think like the only piece that was really kind of missing is people were kind of lacking on the piece on like what happens from an accounting and a tax perspective. So just really adding to color into this area for that. And yeah, I worked previously at a larger financial services firm, and then recently left. So I could kind of help service like clients on a more individual basis. And it's been really, really fantastic. And I've really enjoyed working with so many great kind of investors and artists and creators, and it's been a lot of fun. And so I'm really happy that I'm able to kind of bring my passion for taxes, as nerdy as that sounds, to the space that I'm also super passionate about, which is like crypto and NFTs. Yeah, that's
Incredible.
a little bit about me.
That's fantastic. So yeah, what I was saying just before you came up was, I think the specific questions are probably going to lead to the most value for folks. So if you have questions, please feel free to raise your hand, and I'd like to just pass it off to Dexel, who was up here first. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing pretty good. You actually made this room at a great time, because I actually dedicated today to doing my taxes. So it's absolutely perfect. I have crypto tax calculator, but I'm running into a bunch of warnings because I are just like, I'm also from Canada, and just I have a slew of warnings of missing market prices, negative balances, and uncategorized transactions, and it just seems like there's like this big flurry, and I feel like a bunch of other people that can't like dedicate somebody to helping, have somebody dedicated to just doing the taxes. People are gonna go to these things like crypto tax calculator, and I feel like a lot of people are gonna be in kind of a similar boat to where I am right now. So and for a particular question, I'm just wondering if there's other kind of resources that I should be taking a look that will simplify things like errors on crypto tax calculator, or if there's just another site altogether that would make it smoother, or if there's some format that would be helpful.
Great. So what resources do you guys recommend for tracking transactions and automating
Hey,
taxes?
Dexel, thanks so much for those thoughts. And I think your scenario certainly resonates with probably most people here today. And you're absolutely right. The best sort of first place to start would be to get an account with a third-party tax calculation software provider like CoinTracker, to give you a general sense of what your capital gains, in particular, liability might be. That being said, though, you're also correct that oftentimes the data, will have some sort of manual adjustments required. And so it's important to know that whatever CoinTracker spits out for you as a capital gains estimate is not, gospel. Don't take that, with 100% certainty without reviewing your data line by line. I know it might sound a little bit cumbersome, but every client's data that I've reviewed thus far has had dozens of manual adjustments that I've needed to make for classifications of transactions, or has had sort of incomplete data that will throw off the capital gains amounts quite significantly. And we are sort of limited at this stage with the amount of sort of software that can sort of do a lot of this work for us. And I really commend CoinTracker and Zen Ledger and the other software providers that have really made a very dedicated effort to get something prepared for all of us to use for this tax season, because it was, a bit of a crunch. Both of those companies have made an effort to integrate NFT transactions into their calculations. But that being said, it is still very much so, still in the beta testing phase. A lot of these softwares have just been launched in the last 6 months. And so there will be still some kinks to work out. So my recommendation would be, to just do your best to sort of audit your own data line by line, and just know that you may have some manual adjustments, that you need to do, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's been my experience as well. I have a Zen Ledger subscription, and I have pages of manual adjustments that I have to make. Truth, I see your hand. Let's go straight to you.
Hey, thanks, brother. I appreciate you guys. For either one of you guys, so I've been reading up on taxes because I'm an adult and it's time of the year, and so specifically for the crypto tax bills. So here's some information. With only a few weeks left of this year, I know that it's very popular to do a strategy known as tax loss harvesting, and the IRS really only cares about like net trading profits and things like that, like stocks, bonds, exchange trading like ETFs, mutual funds, and cryptocurrencies. But specifically, because the IRS treats cryptocurrency as a property, from what I know, is the wash sale rule okay to use? Because currently it doesn't apply, and there is a bill that's being worked into Congress at the moment, but it doesn't apply to property. It only applies to like cryptocurrencies itself. So if I were to wash sale, which is like take maybe an NFT that's pretty in demand with like high volume on crypto, or like ETH, for instance, if it's like worth like 3 ETH, and I sell it back to not myself, but another wallet that is owned by myself, since it is a property, is that considered okay?
So I'll jump in just because this is I think a US specific question at the moment. Manisha, if you have similar guidance in Canada, definitely do feel free to jump in. So you're correct in that the wash sale rules currently do not apply to crypto and NFTs. And so what that means is that you can effectively sell your crypto or NFT at a loss and then rebuy back into the same position within a 30-day window without incurring a penalty. One point that I do just want to clarify, though, is that in order for you to be able to actually recognize a loss, you do have to sell the token or the NFT to a third party, someone other than yourself. So if you're just transferring from one wallet that you control to another wallet that you also control, that won't trigger any type of taxable transaction. It won't be a realizable loss. So you will just want to be mindful to find a third party, someone else besides you, to complete that sale. But you can absolutely, for example, sell an NFT at a loss and then buy back into the same project, an hour later, if it's a project that you still want to be a part of, but you also just want to be able to recognize the loss for tax purposes in the next 3 days. So hopefully that clarifies a little bit, but you're absolutely on point with the wash sale.
Right, Kate. So just a follow up for you. So basically, if I have something that, and of course we're all having capital gains here in the NFT market, and especially crypto. I know I do. So for NFT specifically, if I wanted to say a family member, or could you clarify specifically a third party, so that way if we do decide to take this route, that we won't get caught in the mix in the future?
Yeah, sure. So there are regulations called the arm's length transaction rules. And when that comes into play really is if you were intending to sell an NFT below its current market value. So if you have a Bored Ape and you try to sell it to a friend for 1 ETH, which is clearly below the market value, that won't be viewed as a realizable sale. That'll be viewed as a gift in the eyes of the IRS because it's a friend and it's below the market value. But if you are making a sale to a friend or a family member, and as long as you're selling for as close to the current market value as reasonably determinable, then you can absolutely make that sale to a friend or a family member, someone you know. The important thing is that it is a sale. So you're receiving something in return, even if it's the equivalent of $1, so that it's not viewed as a gift. So if you've got something that's truly worthless, it's lost all its value, and you want to recognize that sale, you can find a friend that'd be willing to buy it from you for the equivalent of like $1, if that is truly like the market value. And then that'll be a recognizable sale. So that's not a problem. But yeah, if you're trying to sell something below market value, that's when it gets dicey, and you don't want to fall within the arm's length transaction rules there. So just be careful in that instance.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kate. I've got a question here in my messages. The question is, all of my Ethereum and other coins were purchased and sent to my MetaMask through Coinbase. Will I get a comprehensive statement from Coinbase?
Hi, Jeremy. Kate, if you don't mind, I can just kind of touch on this maybe a little bit. So in terms of a comprehensive statement, I think it depends on what the question that's being asked. So if you work on a centralized exchange, such as using something like a Coinbase, they tend to, oh, sorry, give me a second. So they tend to print out tax forms for you. But in your MetaMask wallet, anything activity that's happening in your MetaMask wallet isn't going to give you a tax form or any reports. So you're right, from the Coinbase side of things, there should be some sort of slip and tax information that they give you. I know they do it for Canada and in the States. But if you're doing any activity within that MetaMask wallet, you're not going to get any kind of output or comprehensive statement. And that's kind of where, back to the original questions that were asked about organizing, and Kate was mentioning those other tools that you can use to help organize. So from wallets that aren't on central exchanges, it's going to be a little bit more of a manual kind of process, and you can either use software to help with that to figure out the transactions in that wallet, or you can kind of do it even more manually using like an Excel, for example. But yeah, no output, unfortunately, as the centralized exchanges are set up to spit out things more cleanly than things like MetaMask, for example.
That makes perfect sense. But from those centralized exchanges, do they provide tax documents for profits realized through their exchange?
Yeah, so I've seen them print them out. Usually they'll do them later on, closer to tax time. It depends which jurisdiction you're in Canada. They should have them, I think, by February or March, just in time for April. And they do give you information. Now, the one thing I'll caution you on is they don't know the treatment. So if you're a day trader, they may say that like these are your profits, and you may just assume that that's your capital gains or capital losses, but it might be business income, just depending on the type of, if you're an investor, the type of investor that you are. So day traders aren't seen as the trades that they're making are seen as business income and not seen as capital in nature. So something just to keep in mind there.
Okay.
Hey, Jeremy, can I just jump in there?
Sure.
And am I hearable, or am I still down a hallway?
Oh, hey, Landon. No, you're much better now.
Okay.
Oh, hi, Landon.
Yeah, thanks. I actually have this meme account. I'm going after this Swoop. Anyways, this new flight company that has, we got COVID last week. We're fine now. Long story short, you're on my meme account because anyways, it's not working otherwise. But Jeremy, I'm just going to be like the dumb ape in a room. I don't know really much about taxes. Hey, everyone, it's awesome. There's like 136 people here. And I'm having, I think challenges following all this, mostly because I think, one, NFTs and crypto and taxes is very new for most people, especially myself. Now, Jeremy, I just wanted to ask, did we give a chance to give Manisha and Kate, proper intro? I know I was offline for like a few minutes at the start.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we introduced them. And, I would encourage everybody who's in the space to tap on their profile and give them a follow. Both of them are creating content that's really helpful in this regard, and along with other things they're interested in. And I pinned one of Kate's tweets, which really is a fantastic summary for cryptocurrency, NFTs, NFT creators, and crypto mining on whether or not an event is taxable. So I personally saved that. I would recommend everyone do the rest. But
Perfect.
with that in mind, I wonder if maybe we could just discuss the life cycle of a typical NFT transaction and which events are taxable. So from purchasing cryptocurrency to and let's assume it's ETH, and then spending it on an NFT, and then holding it for whatever duration of time, and then selling that NFT. How many events are taxable, and what should people be aware of?
Jeremy, I love this question, and I'm so glad that, Landon, thank you for also asking that and kind of bringing it back, because I think for some people, this is their start of their journey in really understanding taxes and figuring out, how the year has impacted them. So really appreciate the question. I think it's going to be very valuable for people to kind of understand this. And I'm sure Kate will also jump in as I go through this, but maybe I'll just do a very high level summary if that works for everybody.
Yes, please.
And I think it works kind of in both jurisdictions. So whether in Canada or the US, it's quite similar in this respect. But so firstly, if you're going from fiat to crypto, that is just your initial purchase. You're pretty much okay, probably no taxable event. But essentially anything that happens after you have that crypto and use that crypto to either purchase another type of crypto, to purchase an NFT, and onwards, or even go back from crypto to fiat, those are going to be your taxable transactions. So that first initial step of going from fiat to crypto, not really a taxable transaction, you're going to be okay there. But anything after that, down the chain, where you're using that crypto, is very likely going to be a taxable transaction. Now, I will name two things where people are probably thinking, so everything that I've done is a taxable transaction? Well, not quite. So if you are just moving one cryptocurrency from one wallet to another, that's not a taxable transaction. So really what I'm saying is any dispositions, and that could be, and I use the word disposition, at least in Canada, the way it works is any sale, or any purchasing or exchanging, because crypto is not seen as fiat or money. It's seen as, I know in the States, I think it's property, but in Canada, it's seen as a commodity. So anytime you exchange that for something else, it's going to be seen as a disposition of that crypto, for example. So essentially, if you're going crypto to crypto, that's a taxable transaction. And I'm saying crypto to, it could be like Ethereum to Bitcoin, for example.
Right. And for the purposes of NFTs, Ethereum to an NFT is the same. My dog
that's okay.
Not happy about this.
Honestly, neither are we. This is so confusing. He gets it.
but that would be a crypto to crypto situation, correct?
So that's a crypto to NFT situation, but same thing. That is also a taxable event. Yeah. So essentially, if you're using your crypto to purchase anything, that's going to be a taxable transaction. If you're cashing out of your crypto, that's going to be a taxable transaction. And then with NFTs, if you're, selling an NFT, that's also going to be a taxable transaction. So you can think of it as the starting point should be pretty clean, not a taxable transaction, fiat to crypto, but anything kind of down the line will start to become taxable transactions. And depending again on which jurisdiction you're at, there may be timing differences on when that's going to be a taxable transaction. But in general, Canada and the United States are pretty aligned in that respect. So hopefully, Jeremy, that was a good kind of starting point for people to help them understand what taxable events might be occurring.
I think it was, and I'm going to try to do a Reader's Digest recap. So
please do.
Let me know if I miss any important points. And you also reminded me of something that took me a while to wrap my head around in terms of short-term versus long-term capital gains, that because the NFT asset is separate from the cryptocurrency asset, the clock for short-term gains begins when you acquire that asset. So like looking at the life cycle, I convert fiat into crypto through an exchange. That's not taxable. I've just acquired a commodity in Canada or property in the United States. And if I hold that asset for any fewer than 365 days, then and dispose of it to purchase an NFT, that's a taxable event based on the profit I've realized from the value I purchased the asset at versus where I spent it. So if I bought that Ethereum for 3,000, but I purchased an NFT at 4,000, that $1,000 difference is the taxable value, and it is now in the bucket of short-term capital gains. But this is something that took me a minute to realize, is the NFT I've just purchased, it's now on its own 365-day clock to become long-term gains. It doesn't it doesn't, even though I've converted that Ethereum into this NFT, it doesn't clock back to when I acquired the Ethereum. It has its own clock. And so if I hold that NFT and sell it for a profit, the difference between my cost base, let's work in like whole numbers. If I spent one Ethereum at $4,000 and I sell it for 2 Ethereum worth $8,000, then it's the fiat value, that $4,000 difference, that is my taxable exposure, whatever percentage of that based on the short-term capital gains in my jurisdiction. And then the Ethereum I acquired now after selling the NFT has a new short-term capital gains clock. If I sell it anytime between 365 days from the NFT sale, then I'll be paying short-term capital gains if I were to convert it back into fiat or to sell it for another NFT. Is that accurate?
So a fun fact, I'm going to let Kate hop on that, because fun fact, in Canada, we don't have short-term or long-term capital gains. We just have one kind of bucket it goes into. So that concept does not apply to Canadians. Luckily, I think it's kind of nice, actually.
I think that's great. Good to know.
But for those folks in the US, I'm going to let Kate kind of just give confirmation on that.
Yeah, that is quite a nice point, Manisha. But yes, so Jeremy, you're correct that the short-term capital gains bucket is 365 days or less. So in order to make sure you're in the long-term capital gains bucket, you hold that asset for 12 months and 1 day, and then you'll be in the long-term capital gains bucket, which is generally a more favorable tax rate for you. And you're also correct in that upon purchasing an NFT, that asset now begins a new sort of time clock for, you need to hold that NFT for 12 months and 1 day in order to be in the long-term capital gains bucket. The NFT that you purchase doesn't inherit the timeline of the crypto, for short-term or long-term capital gains purposes. So that's actually a great distinction that I haven't heard addressed in any of the spaces that I've been a part of so far. So that's actually a really interesting point. And glad you addressed that as well.
Awesome. Thank you. So we've got a lot of people on stage who have been patient. Go ahead, Landon. And then Jeremy, I just want to go to David and then Swoo. So go ahead.
Yes, perfect. So like just being, like if I play the role of like, I'm a dumb ape, I don't know really much about what's going on with taxes. Do I really care? I don't know. Want to make sure I pay my taxes. So we got roads in US and Canada and wherever you're from. And I want to make sure that I'm taking advantage of the best tax situation. I'd love to quickly sort of know, like, well, what should I be thinking about? Are there different softwares I should be using? Should I be making sure I hire an accountant? Like I'm not following all the language, although I'm following some of it. Like, what do I have to be certain of, being someone who's like doesn't really know this space very well and is sort of learning about crypto and taxation?
Yeah, Landon, thank you so much for kind of playing that role. I think it keep bringing us back to ground zero in some ways, and I think that's going to be very helpful for people. So for those who are kind of just, this is their first preliminary kind of space or understanding that, like, wait, what? I have to do things with taxes this year because I've been doing crypto and I've been doing NFTs and I've bought in, and starting off and going to these spaces, following different accounts that are giving kind of financial education is going to be a great starting point in helping you on this journey of understanding. And now, whether or not you need a professional is really going to depend on your set of circumstances. Now, I don't think everybody does need a professional. If you've only had like a few transactions, you're probably capable of handling that yourself. But the more and more you're the complexity of your transactions goes up. For example, you start getting into giveaways or airdrops and staking, and you're getting some yields from crypto, or even potentially your NFTs, and or you're a creator of NFTs, and you're investing in other types of altcoins. The more complex your transactions become, the more likely you're kind of creeping up to wanting to consult professionals. And the reason being is you just want to make sure that you're going to get it right. The government bodies, IRS and CRA in Canada, are really looking at this as a point in terms of what they want to take a deep dive into this year. And so I think it's really important that you kind of understand, what's going on with your own activity. And B, by working with a professional, even if you kind of just do it this year or just start to educate yourself, it can really help you throughout empowering yourself throughout the next year in 2022, and understanding what implications each of your transactions are having. And so again, if you've only had a handful of transactions, pretty easy to track, they're pretty clean, using centralized exchanges, and maybe, a few NFTs, you're probably going to be okay. But where you're doing more than just that, or have had more activity than just that, you may probably want to consult a professional. And to your point, Landon, also, like, how do I get organized? There's a few different ways. I know Kate mentioned a few different kinds of tools and resources that can help you organize yourself for the tax season. I think Dan's also here from Zen Ledger. They have a product too to help you kind of get organized in terms of all of your transactions. And then so you can use something if you have a lot of transactions. It probably would not hurt to help get yourself organized, or you can work with a professional to help get yourself organized too. There's lots of different options, but I think as a point one, understanding, how many taxable events you've probably had, is going to be your starting point to figure out whether or not you need to seek professional help. And maybe the only other thing that I can mention is, working with a professional can be helpful also if you're trying to learn and, figure out for your specific set of circumstances how you can optimize your situation. Really, it's our jobs to make sure that everyone's getting the best outcome they can possibly have. And so I know that when I work with my clients, and I know Kate's very similar, we really just try to make sure it's like we're taking a zoomed out approach to making sure, you're getting what you need from a personal perspective, not just from a tax perspective as well, and what makes sense based on your situation. And so that's kind of what I would say is pretty cool with working with a professional. But again, if you only had a handful of transactions, or handful rather, you're probably going to be okay not to seek professional help.
Thank you. I want to be conscious not only of your time, but also we've got a bunch of people patient on stage. I did pin a tweet from both Zen Ledger and Coin Tracker, which have been mentioned as tools for tracking these, as well as there's a poll if you want to share with us where you're tuning in from. And the first tweet is a great summary based on your category as a creator or collector, what types of events are taxable. But I want to pass it to David, who's been super patient on stage. So David, do you have a question?
Yeah, thanks. So first and foremost, Jeremy, I'm going to give you flowers for everything you do for the VDAO and VFriends community, because you're a rock star, and the information you provide on a daily basis is super helpful, including this space. I have a multi-part question, so please bear with me. Manisha, and I apologize if I'm butchering your name just in advance. You mentioned if you only have a few taxable transactions. So let's just say for myself, I have under 25, right? That I could probably go back into my history and track and figure out what Ethereum I purchased at, and then what I purchased the NFT at. But if that NFT is sitting and I'm not selling it, do I still have to file it? Is that filing based on what the floor price is? I guess I'm confused as to like, how do you understand if it's a gain or not if you haven't sold it, if it's just sitting in your wallet?
Yeah, David, thanks so much for the question. I see that you're in the States, so I'm actually gonna bump this one to Kate.
Oh, sorry.
So that no, please don't be sorry. That's why we're both in here, to really make sure everyone's getting, good information that works for them. So Kate, just got rugged. That was perfect. Oh, she's a listener, so maybe
I'll get her.
Okay, awesome.
But the other part of the question, and we could go back to that first part, is you mentioned, if you can handle it yourself, right? Where do you file it yourself? Because I'm probably not going to go to my normal accountant for like my regular day job with, let's say, sub 25 transactions, right? You mentioned that you could probably do it yourself. Through what platform would you do it yourself? Is my second half of the question.
Yeah, so I'm gonna bump this to Kate again, just because in the States it might be a little bit different than in Canada. And so, Kate, are you back up here?
Hey guys, I think I am back. I did miss, but I can touch on if you're going to DIY, how to maybe go about doing that. But I did miss the first part of the question. So with respect to DIYing it, David, I would still recommend that you use a tax calculation software such as ZenLedger or CoinTracker, and that'll help you get the best idea of what your capital gains liability, for example, is going to be. And if you'll just have to first understand what types of taxable income you may be liable for. So if you've earned any compensation, if you've been, or if you've received airdrops, all of different types of crypto or NFT related transactions that you've had. But if you're more or less comfortable filing your tax return yourself, either of the tools listed on the IRS website or using something like TurboTax, then that's complexity, as Manisha was saying. Push that, and a tool like ZenLedger or CoinTracker would be probably all you would need in order to help just give yourself a little bit more comfort over something like the capital gains, for example, that factoring in cost basis and doing those calculations manually can get a little bit cumbersome. But if you're still unsure, you want to go about DIYing, we can definitely have a chat offline about that. If there is an outstanding question, if you
yeah, I guess so. I think the summary there is using a third party, whether it's ZenLedger or some sort of calculator, and theoretically I could take the findings of the gains and go to a normal accountant and provide that for them, and then they theoretically could just file the rest of it versus using a TurboTax, for example, in the States. Is that correct?
That could definitely work. Yep.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. Thank you so much. And then the other part of the question was, if I purchased Ethereum at, let's say, $1,500 last March, and today it's valued at $3,800 or whatever it is today, and I purchased an NFT, but I'm not selling the NFT, do I still have to file that NFT? I guess I'm confused with what do you file it against? How is it considered gains if you haven't sold it yet? Is it dependent on the floor price, or?
Is Kate getting rugged here,
Yeah,
Jeremy? Or is it just me?
Maybe. I see her. There she is.
I am getting rugged, yes.
Oh, no. David, I think the answer to your question is you've disposed your Ethereum asset at that value. So what was previously 1,500 is now 3,800, and that is realizing a profit. So I think that a big takeaway for people who are coming to this fresh, have bought NFTs but haven't sold a single one, you still may have tax exposure if any of the purchases you made, your Ethereum was worth more at the time you disposed it and spent it to buy an NFT than at the price you purchased it at.
So the gain comes in the purchase of the NFT dependent on what the Ethereum price is. But if you're holding onto the NFT, you're no taxable gains based on the NFT itself. Is that correct?
Right. The NFT doesn't have any taxable gains, but the Ethereum, it was previously unrealized at that value. But as soon as you spent it for an NFT, that value is now realized.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That's awesome. That's super helpful.
Jeremy, our resident tax expert. I love it. You've done your homework.
Let's be careful with that.
No, I know. But David, to your point, yeah. So it's like a good question, because I had gone over kind of everything that could be a taxable transaction. And the one thing I hope that I mentioned is the word disposition. So if you're not actually disposing of anything via a sale or sending it to another person somehow, there's no taxable transaction unless you've had a disposition. And when you're buying an NFT, you've disposed of crypto, which is why there's a taxable transaction there. But until you dispose of the NFT, there's no taxable transaction on that NFT.
I've got a couple rapid fire questions in my DM, so maybe and there's a lot of people being very patient. So for both of you, are you open to managing just the crypto NFT side of taxes? If people have a CPA who handles the rest of their situation, will you handle, or are you open to handling for clients just the NFT crypto side?
Yeah, great question, Jeremy. Actually, that I've kind of been doing a hybrid. So, and I know Kate has been too. So if you just need help on the crypto piece or the NFT piece, we're both happy just to help with that. And then you can take it to your regular CPA or accountant, or, if you're DIYing it and you just need help on the crypto piece, we're happy to help with just that. But if you want, kind of like the full service from start to finish and don't want to take it to anybody else, we're also happy to do it from start to finish as well.
Great. Another quick one. What about gas fees? Are gas fees deductible as expenses against the gains?
Okay, so Kate, I guess I'm taking these. Please feel free to jump in if you want. So let's maybe, Jeremy, if you don't mind, I'm going to just explain two things. So there's gas fees that you incur when you purchase. Let's just stick to NFTs, for example. So there's gas fees you incur when you purchase an NFT, and then there's gas fees you incur when you sell the NFT. So when you purchase the NFT, any gas fees and transaction fees you incur get added to the cost base of that NFT. So if that NFT was $100, well, at least in Canada, if that NFT was $100, you add that extra $10 transaction and gas fee to that NFT price that you paid. And so your cost base for tax is $110 for that NFT. So then when you subsequently, let's say you sell the NFT for $200 and then there's gas fees of $10, you can then either use that in Canada as an expense to offset the $200, or you can also just add it to the cost base as well. It works a very similar way. But essentially, what you'd be taxed on if you didn't add the gas fees or transaction fees when you first purchased that NFT, if you didn't add it to your cost base, you would see a profit of $110 instead of seeing a profit of $100. So by adding the gas and transaction fees when you purchase the NFT, you are essentially, when you sell it, lowering the cost of the profit that you will realize on that, or increasing the loss potentially too. Does that make sense?
I think so. So gas fees on the purchase side are added to the cost base.
Exactly. Yeah.
Gas fees on the selling side are removed from the profit.
Exactly. At least in Canada. I think in the States, and don't quote me on this, but I think in the States it's actually added. It's actually deducted from the cost, from the proceeds that you receive, essentially.
And And how does that work with gas for failed transactions?
Yeah, good question. So gas for failed transactions, it's going to vary. But I know there's been people taking very different positions on this,
Sure.
on how they want to treat that. But I know some people are taking the position that, gas on failed transactions is still deductible. You're still paying for it. You just didn't get an asset in return. So they're saying like the asset is $0 and then it's just the gas fees. I know in Canada there might be room for you to take it as like a deduction on one of the schedules there, but it's going to depend on exactly what you were buying, and did the transaction eventually go through? Did you decide to just leave it there? It's going to change the treatment of how you're going to treat that failed transaction fee.
Got it. I'm getting a lot of DMs about legal tax loopholes, and I'm sure that's kind of an oxymoron.
Nice.
So I wonder if you could address vehicles for people, whether it might be setting up a corporation, an LLC. Like, what is a safe process for moving NFTs into an LLC, and what are some things that people can be aware of in terms of legal loopholes, if there are any?
Yeah. So, okay. So I get this question a lot too, and I'm sorry for those in the States, but I'll try to speak more generally because I am in Canada. But in general, incorporation is something that I think a lot of people are looking at to try to help, maybe either reduce their tax burden or also just to kind of avoid risk. So one reason for incorporation that I would usually recommend to anybody who kind of has risk, usually if you're kind of on the creator or developer side of making an NFT, and you think there's any inherent risk in creating that NFT, that's going to be a good reason for incorporation, because it can help to limit your legal liability. If you're not able to fulfill on your obligations, or if there's a lawsuit brought against you, it really helps to separate your personal assets from these now corporate assets. Now, from a tax perspective, how does that impact you? Well, if you decide to incorporate your activity as a NFT investor, collector, or creator, you've now separated yourself from that activity personally. So that can provide some sort of tax deferral, because the corporate tax rates, for the most part, again, it depends, but for the most part can be lower than a personal tax rate depending on how much you're making. And the thing that happens though is I don't recommend everyone to incorporate just because they think there may be some tax savings, because the problem now becomes you're going to have the administrative burden of filing annual documentation, and now you have 2 tax returns instead of 1. And then the other thing is, depending on your corporate structure, if it's something like a C corp, or just for Canadians like a corporation, a regular old corporation, you now have to figure out how to get the money out of the corp. So that's usually through either salary or dividends, and so you're kind of adding a little bit of a layer of complexity to try to save, some sort of tax, some sort of amount in tax. And at the end of the day, in the Canadian system, the way it really is it's not really tax savings, but it's tax deferrals. And what that means is you'll eventually pay the tax. It's just a matter of when. And one of the benefits in Canada, at least, is if you can hold money in a corporation longer and pull out the money at a time where you're making less money, your personal tax rate will be lower. So you're going to see advantages in that respect, rather than just pulling it out right away when you're at a really high personal tax rate.
Got it.
Yeah, maybe I'll also Jeremy, are you happy with that? Or do you also, maybe it might be worth Kate also speaking to?
I would love for Kate to speak if she's back. Yeah.
Yeah, Kate. So we're just kind of going over maybe advantages or maybe some tax savings in incorporating, and if there's any benefit in doing so.
Hey guys, I'm so sorry. I've never been rugged before, and today's my unlucky day, I guess. But I seem to be back now. So yeah, this is also a really common question, right? How to sort of avoid tax. And there are a number of different vehicles and opportunities to do this. Starting a business is certainly one option. With respect to reducing your tax burden, though, the answers to these questions really do depend on your specific circumstances. And so if I were to, be up here and say, you could look into forming a trust, which is also a separate entity from yourself personally, a business, retirement accounts, charitable donations and charitable entities. All of those are options for you, but the determining factor as to whether or not those are going to be beneficial to you is deeply, personal to your own circumstances and goals. So maybe it's best to just note that all of those options are out there for you, but that's a step that I would definitely recommend you consult with a professional before making a decision on. But certainly, I will say, if you are operating a business as a sole proprietor, for example, you're an artist and you've created an NFT and you've, sold some of your art and you're thinking about, taking this business a bit more seriously, or you've done some consulting work on the side and you're, earning some income from that. In that case, if you are already sort of operating as a business, as a sole proprietor in the States, I would absolutely always recommend that you establish at least an LLC, a business entity, for the very reason Manisha discussed, which is giving yourself a little bit of liability protection. And so if that's the case, then there is a very clear recommendation. An LLC, forming an entity is pretty low cost, a couple $100 here in the States, depending on what state you're in. But if you're talking more broadly about how do I, reduce a major tax burden, and you want to start to look at some different vehicles in order to be able to do that, that's when I would recommend definitely consulting with your accountant to work out something that will align with your goals and be suited to your specific circumstances.
Hey, Jared, can I just jump in there?
Of course. Go ahead.
So we only got 5 minutes left. Now, I mean, Manisha and Kate, if it's at all possible for you to stick around, I'm sure people have more questions, but I also want to be, respectful of your time. And, just personally, I mean, I don't know how you can get off a call like this and not be like, oh my God, I should probably look seriously at building an LLC or a sole prop. Personal opinion, but I mean, anyways, given we only got a few minutes left here, I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, okay, there's 3 days left in this year. What should I be thinking about in terms of, do I sell, do I hold, do I buy? I'd love to hear a little bit off Kate and Manisha in terms of that, and just make sure that you do fill out the polls, everybody, because I think it seems like there's a lot of demand for this. And, Jared, it's probably smart of me and you look at doing something like this again with Manisha and Kate or something like that.
Yeah, great question. Go ahead.
Yeah, certainly. So, we are in the US here down to our last 3 days of the tax year. And so really the topic of conversation is around capital gains and the opportunity to tax loss harvest. And so if you are wondering if you should, make any decisions between now and the 31st at midnight about, potentially selling any of your crypto or NFTs for a loss, that's really a decision that only you can make based on your assessment of what your total capital gains liability is. And that being said, you can't really make an informed decision unless you have an idea of what your capital gains liability might be at this point in time. That being said, though, if you do sort of know, okay, I did make one major NFT, sale, and I'm sitting on $50,000 of profit, from that one transaction alone, then if you know for sure that you're in a capital gains position, then absolutely you can take the next couple of days to do some tax loss harvesting and try to sell some NFTs or crypto that are currently at a market value that's below your original cost basis or purchase price plus gas.
So can I just say that back to you, but in a really dumbed down way that someone like me could get it, Kate?
You bet, Jeremy. Go for it.
Okay, it's Landon, but close. It's fine.
Oh, geez, Landon, you switched your photo on me.
I've switched because it wasn't working. So this is my meme account. I'm going after an
Oh,
airline
okay.
in Canada on this. Anyways.
I must have missed that one.
No, it's fine. So if I, let's say, bought Bored Ape Yacht Club or Be Friends, I bought it at 400, I sold it at 400,000 or whatever current price it was or is. I've made, let's say, $399,000 in profit approximately. But I've got other NFTs that have since gone down in value. So could I, let's say, I bought into something like I don't know, one of those famous people bought into, and it's gone down from 400,000 down to one. Let's say it's the opposite way. Could I sell that and take that as a loss? Now my taxable amount is only thousands versus hundreds of thousands. Like, is that kind of how that works?
That's exactly right. Yep.
Now, what if I sell that piece today and I then decide I want to buy it back January 1, so I still hold that asset just in case it goes back in? Like, legally, can I do that?
You can buy it back 10 minutes later if you want. That's totally fine.
But I still say that I take the loss, right? Given that I sold it this year. Correct.
So until the wash sale rules apply to NFTs, you can do that. And at the moment, the wash sale penalty does not apply to NFT transactions, so you can go ahead and do that, or wait till January 1. Whenever you would like to buy back in.
Okay, got it. Now, what if, let's say, I don't choose to sell, but it's worth like $1,000 versus 400,000? Can I say that because I haven't sold it, it's got $1,000 in value, and then I can claim that, or do I must sell it?
No, so you do need to have what's called a realized loss, which means you need to actually have sold it. What you're talking about is an unrealized loss, so just a value change. But in order to offset your capital gains, you'll need to have a realized loss and actually make the sale.
Okay, super. Now I know it's 3:30. Jer or Manisha, anything lastly you want to, say here, and then we can see if Kate or Manisha have any more time, or we can just wrap it up here.
Yeah, so we've got a bunch of people with requests, and it makes perfect sense. I do want to take this moment while there's 250 people in the room to bring attention to our VDAO project that I pinned up top. It's because of the VDAO project that we're doing educational spaces and AMAs like this. So if you're new to the space or you're a fan of Be Friends, I'd highly recommend checking it out. We're minting at the moment. And to Manisha and Kate, this is super educational, and clearly the questions are unceasing as there's 10 people waiting in the wings. My apologies to Swoo, Chica, GQ, and the rest, Liquid, Ether, who are up here and didn't get a question answered. I don't know if either of you are able to stick around or if we should just schedule for another time. But this has been super helpful. I personally have more questions, so I'm conflicted, but I just want to say thank you either way.
Yeah. So Kate or Manisha, do you have time, or do you? I'm sure you're very busy. It's the holiday season, but I think if it's possible, people want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, thank you, Landon, and thank you, Jeremy. I just want to take the time to first of all thank both of you so much for holding this space and inviting Kate and I up here to kind of help share information. And it's really what we've been trying to do over the past few months, and then also going into the new year, we'll still be around. So with that, I think actually it probably would make sense just to hold another one so we can really help answer questions in a way that's more valuable for everyone. If that also makes sense for both of you.
Sure, yeah.
And you have time for that. And, if there's any questions that are quite pressing and you're really like concerned about something, just, Kate and I both have our DMs open. You're more than welcome to reach out to us. And we will do our best to help you. And I guess the only other thing I guess I'll say is, don't just, you might have just heard this information in this space. Don't act like rashly and just try to jump and sell things that you don't want to sell. Really make sure that you're okay with the actions that you're following, because, although it's coming to year end and this is maybe it's going to be related to a tax liability in 2021, there's still things we can do, at least from a Canadian perspective, I know, that we can do in 2022 to help you, to help reduce that tax burden. And, even if you sell something for a loss in the next year, at least in Canada, you can carry back losses if you don't use them. So there's still the opportunity to kind of help reduce tax burdens from previous years, even if you do transactions in 2022. So don't act too rashly. And, if there's something sitting in your wallet, an NFT or a piece that's really sitting with you and you're just doing it just for tax purposes, and you're going to feel some buyer's or seller's remorse in this case, don't do it and just wait, is probably what I'm going to say. Because again, your specific set of circumstances is going to help determine whether or not that's going to be right for you. And yeah, if you have questions, feel free to reach out. My DMs are also open. I also do like consults, like free 15-minute consults. If you are interested in having me help you in the tax year, you're more than welcome to book with me. I deal only in Canada, so if you need help in the States, Kate's going to be your best bet for that. And yeah, we're definitely here just to help, and we've been a part of the community, and we really understand how important it is to give back. So we would be happy, and it would be our pleasure to do another AMA with everybody if Jeremy and Landon would be open to using their valuable time to hold another one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Manisha.
So,
Kate, I'll pass it to you,
yeah.
and maybe I can just squeeze a question in here, or throw it out into the ether. Like, I think my biggest question at this point is about gifts and airdrops, and I'm in the States, so this is maybe more for Kate. But I don't know, maybe that's too complicated to answer here at the end. But Kate, I want to pass the mic to you.
Yeah, sure. So thank you again. Honestly, this has been such an overwhelming response to the space, and I definitely agree with Manisha that it's our biggest objective to sort of help build a community and share a lot of this information to benefit everyone. And so I would be certainly open to doing another space. If you think it's prudent to squeeze another one in before the end of the year, we can maybe look at like Thursday or Friday to get another space in. If not, like, certainly let me know. We can get one on the schedule for next week, and just try to get everyone's questions answered, because I do know we've got a lot of people who didn't get the answer a question, but my DMs are open as well. And so related to airdrops and gifts, just briefly, there is a lot with respect to the airdrops piece, but on gifts,
yeah.
In the States, there's a $15,000 annual gift tax exemption. So if you receive gifted NFT or gifted crypto, you have a kind family member or friend or someone, it's your lucky day, that won't be taxable income to you for the first $15,000 value. With respect to airdrops, this has been a widely discussed topic in the last week. The IRS has released some guidance thus far, basically stating that airdrops are taxable income to U.S. residents. Where there's still a bit of gray area, though, is the timing of that taxation and the amount or valuation to place on the airdropped tokens. So that would probably be a great question to maybe kick off the next space with, because I know a lot of people in this room probably were part of the SOS drop or ENS drop, or others. So that would be really awesome, I think, topic to jump into.
Awesome. Thank you so much. For everybody who's here, I'm going to stick around for a while. Receive some DMs. People want to ask questions about VFriends. I'm happy to give my a non-expert opinion on taxes, but we do want to be respectful of our guests. So thank you to both of you so much.
Yeah, thanks you too. And I think it would be prudent, if Kate, Manisha, myself, and Jeremy, if we can find a time on Thursday or Friday. I'm sort of thinking Thursday, but why don't we look to coordinate that after hours? And by all means, definitely DM Kate, Manisha, if you have any more questions. And as I understand, you two are for hire. Is that correct?
We're both onboarding new clients. Yep.
Brilliant. And I haven't quite hired Manisha yet, but we are well along those ways to be in full disclosure with all y'all. So, Jerry, I know you want to stick around. I'm actually going to split because I'm having a late Christmas today. But thanks everyone.
Well, thanks for being here.
Yeah, well, totally. And I just can't wait to do this again.
Bye, Landon.
Fantastic.
Thanks for having us.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Landon.
Thanks.
I'm actually going to scoot to another call as well, but I cannot thank you enough, Jeremy, and to everyone who tuned in to listen. Really looking forward to jumping back on perhaps later this week for another space, that'd be great.
Yeah, let's make that happen. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeremy. I saw Kate left, and I just wanted to say thank you for everyone for taking your time to come to the space, and Jeremy for taking the time to host the space. I know it takes a lot of time and energy. So for anyone who hasn't given, Landon or Jeremy or the VFriends DAO, is it called VFriends DAO or is it just VDAO?
It's called the VDAO. We're not
VDAO.
affiliated. We have a direct line to VFriends, as we took a lot of inspiration from their intellectual property to make sure we're respectful of them, but we're not affiliated.
Okay, yeah. So for the VDAO and for Jeremy and for Landon, if you haven't given them a follow as well, it's definitely worth it because they're taking their time and their energy to host these spaces. So it wouldn't hurt for you to give them a follow and to retweet some of their stuff. It's free and it helps them out and spread more message to more people and help more people. So thank you. Thanks so much.
That.
Yeah.
Thanks, and yes, thanks, Jer. You're awesome.
Thank you, Landon.
You.
Thank you all. Take care. Bye.
All right. We'll keep it rolling. I make no promises about what I can offer in the tax realm, but I see some people have VFriends questions. Swoo, you were so patient and we didn't get to you. I truly apologize. How are you?
No worries. I'm doing good, thanks. My question is a little bit complicated, so I might just be DMing Kate on this. But yeah, just thanks, Jeremy, for having me on and for hosting this space. I think I might reach out to her separately.
You're welcome. Do you want to throw it out there? It's possible that I can add a little clarity.
I'll throw it out there just in case. But so basically, my situation was over the summer, I did a trade with someone where I exchanged two of my NFTs for one of his. So for VFriends, since most of us are in the space, I traded a core and an epic for this lava spec that I have right here. And we did the trade in a bit of a ratchet way, where instead of using NFT Trader, we actually brought in Post Roan as trusted third party and transfer all the tokens to him, and then he transferred the traded tokens back to us. So there's no real sale price recorded on the blockchain or anything for these transactions. But in the back of my mind, I do know the fair market values of the tokens. So was wondering from Kate's perspective, when I report these taxes, would I report those two tokens I traded away as sales at their fair market values and then pay taxes on that gain? And then would my cost basis for the token I hold now just be that same value as the total sum of those two sales?
Yeah. I mean, you're focused on the right terms, the fair market value, specifically at the time of the trade. I think the most prudent thing would be seeing that as a realized value,
right,
and paying taxes on that gain. That what I'm not so sure of is if your cost basis for the shrewd sheep is the realized value of those two tokens combined, or is it the fair market value of that token at the time of trade? Because the trade is someone may trade something that is worth more or worth less because it's the right trade, right?
Yeah. And then kind of going off of that as well, my other question was, when let's say I report these fair market values on my tax form, in the rare case there's a tax audit or whatever, how would I be able to definitively prove those fair market values? My one thought there is maybe I could use CryptoSlam and look back in the timeline and go to around the dates of when those trades happened and look at other specs for comps or whatever, but a little bit complicated there.
Yeah, it is, because not all lavas are equal, and
very character dependent and all that.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of narrative building that goes into it. One thing that I really wanted to ask about as well was scam NFTs. And if you buy a scam NFT on OpenSea, well, you've realized the value on your ETH, so that much should be taxable, but you've now effectively lost that ETH. Our scam, but I think in order to actually deduct the value of a scammed amount of Ethereum, you have to be able to prove that it was a scam. And I think it gets really hairy because technically it's your responsibility to vet purchases before you buy them, right? Or I don't know. There's a lot of nuances, especially with how many scams there are, the volume of them. I think, like she said, like kicking off with gifts and airdrops, and then scam events is probably a good place to start for the next one.
Yeah, definitely. And something I've been wondering too is for people, we've seen a lot of people in the Friends Discord who've gotten scammed. Like for them, how do they report taxes? Is it like they have to file a police report to have like an official documentation that they've been scammed? Or because, if someone sold something from their wallet and realized the gain, then they shouldn't be paying taxes based off of scammed token. So it would be interested to hear Kate and Amisha's view on that.
Yeah. William, did you have something to add on that?
I think the big thing is you have to realize the loss to make the loss real. So I think if you get something stolen, like that's a loss and you can take it as a zero, which means you would deduct your initial cost as a loss. On the scam tokens or the scam NFTs that you buy into, if you burn it, it would be a loss, a realized loss.
Right. And that's effectively what you've done.
Yeah. Like that's the question is, how do you actually get it to become a realized loss so you can deduct it from your gains?
Let's go to Liquid and then Ethereum. Hey, Liquid.
Hey, how's it going? First of all, thanks for having this space. It's great. I think there needs to be a lot more advice going around to everyone. A lot of people got into NFTs without having even the understanding that they were taxable things. But I definitely appreciate you having this space. So I just wanted to touch base really quickly. We actually released a service just now aimed at helping people sell their worthless NFTs. So mostly projects that have actually been rugged or failed, or there's just literally no liquidity. You could list it on OpenSea and F for zero and no one will buy it. Some people we've talked to, it's not super clear. It probably is okay to just burn your NFT, send it to the burn address. But from the accountants we've talked to, it sounds, and again, this is not financial advice, but it sounds like it's better to have a sale. The service that we actually released, liquidnfts.app, it basically, you can go there. It's just for Ethereum right now. We're hoping to release on Solana before the end of the year, but it's pretty tight. And you can go there and we'll pay you a very small amount. We're basically going to pay you 5% of your gas fee. So right now, it varies with the actual gas prices, but over the last couple of days, it's cost about $30 to send an NFT on our website, and then we'll pay you back 5% of that. So that'd be about $1.50. And then on Etherscan, that actually shows a clear record that you did sell your NFT for that price. So it's not really aimed at any good NFTs, or if your NFT dropped from $10,000 to $1,000, you wouldn't want to use our service. But if you just completely got rugged or bought something that was a complete scam, it might make sense to use our service for that.
Yeah, that's super interesting. What do you do with the NFTs that you buy? Do you burn them or do you hold them in a vault?
We hold them in a vault, and likely at some point, I mean, if some of them come to value, we would sell them. So there is that, and it's basically, we have some cost to do the whole thing, and we have the developers that we've paid to set up the contracts and everything. So it's kind of a speculative play on our side that hopefully maybe some of them do come to value and we can recoup some of our losses that we've spent developing the website. But I actually came up with it. There's a couple other companies that do the same sort of thing, but I needed to sell some NFTs that I basically got rugged on. And it seems like it makes sense for those transactions, just since on OpenSea, I mean, the gas fee sometimes is over $100 to purchase an NFT. So if your NFT isn't only worth a couple dollars, no one's ever going to buy it.
Yeah. So regarding rugged NFTs, for those in the room, this may be an option for you. And the reason being that regardless of if your project was rugged, you have a taxable event for when you purchased it. So just working with whole numbers, if you spent a full Ethereum to buy your now rugged NFT, well, whatever the value of that ETH at the time you bought it relative to how much you spent to acquire it is your taxable exposure. If it's a loss, then you can deduct it. And if it's a gain, then you owe those gains. But if you're just holding a rugged NFT just because the unrealized value is zero, until you sell it for zero, it's not a real loss. And so that's why this service can be useful, because you'll be realizing that loss.
Exactly. So a prime example would be maybe you accidentally bought a project that was just a fake project. It looked like it was a CryptoPunk or something, and it just wasn't. And I'll take an extreme example. Say you spent $100,000 on it, and you realize that's not worth anything. Well, that's really $100,000 capital loss that you incurred, and you should, again, not financial advice and all this, but you should probably realize that rather than just having it sit in your wallet, if you had made good gains in that year as well.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. Thank you for sharing that, Liquid. Let's go to Ethereum.
Hey, thanks very much. I just want to say thank you to the VDAO members, you, Jeremy. December was pretty fun with the giveaways, things like that. So great work on everything you guys are doing and building. Glad to be part of the group. My biggest question was already answered. My second question that I had is more to do with kind of the business perspective. So I was curious about participating in a DAO and what it looks like from a protection standpoint there. Because I'm so far, to be full disclosure, I'm a part of the Curio Cards DAO, and there's talk of some sort of compensation for that would be something through NFTs, but none of that's come to fruition yet. And I just wanted to make sure that I had been set up correctly for, who knows what could happen if something happens and DAO gets sued or something like that. How do you have those kinds of protections in place for participating in something like that? So that was my question. Don't know if that could be answered today, but
can you reframe the question? I lost it in there.
Yeah. So the question in short is, how do you protect yourself while participating in a DAO? Do you need to set up an LLC or some kind of a business entity to protect yourself as you are helping a project?
Wow, this is a great question. I'm not sure I'm equipped to answer it. Like, yes, if you're holding the tokens within an LLC, that's the safest way to do it. Really, from my point of view, the DAO should establish an LLC for its own operations to protect them. Like, I really think that whoever is creating the DAO, I know it's decentralized, but at the end of the day, there's some spectrum of centralization that is maintaining its management most of the time, and the liability should stem from there, or the liability protection rather. But the truth is, like, there's not really clear legal vehicles for doing that for blockchain organizations. So I think that's a great question that I'm not sure is really Kate or Manisha could have answered anyway, because it seems more of like an incorporation attorney question. But I think I do think that having an LLC up on your own where you hold the tokens that are relative to that DAO is probably the best bet, the clearest way to protect yourself at this time.
Okay, that makes sense. Appreciate that. And then last question I have off topic a little bit is the Christmas giveaway for the VCon conference thing. Very generous, very cool that the group did that. I did participate, and I was just wondering how I can claim the POAP.
It hasn't been released yet, but as soon as it is,
okay.
Yeah, we have like 5 POAPs that I've sent for delivery that I haven't gotten back yet, and there will be announcements in the Discord when those are claimable.
Okay, very cool. All right. Well, thanks again for all you guys do. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're super welcome.
All right. Bye.
GQ, did you want to step up to the plate?
Hey, Jeremy, how's it going?
It's going very well.
Yeah, this is a great spaces.
Yeah, we need to be having this. We should have been having this conversation a month ago, but better late than never.
Well, there's a lot going on, so
yeah.
I look forward to like the next one, and also I'm kind of curious. So there's a ton of people on here. Who's in the VDAO? Could I get like hundreds or fists or some kind of emoji? Let's see.
I'm not sure. Honestly, I would suspect that like less than half of the space is in the VDAO. But yeah. I don't know for sure. I know people's Discord tags, not necessarily there. I see a dozen, 20. I see Train's got hundreds.
There we go.
Yeah.
It looks like a 30%.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Well, the VDAO has been really good. I did want to kind of talk a little bit about some of the alpha that's shared within the VDAO community. So like, if anybody hops in the Discord, a lot of this stuff's open. So there's a lot of knowledge being passed around, and like taxation is a huge one, right? And business structure and that type of thing, because I'm sure most people just got into it because they thought NFTs were cool and you could make a little money. And then all of a sudden your bag gets a little bigger and you go, holy shit, there may be some serious tax implications that I should think about. And not just as a collector, but as an artist or creator. And, the protections are great. The write-offs are great, especially if you're an artist too. If you're buying, Wacom tablets, you want to do some write-offs on your, on your cable, Wi-Fi, whatever. Those are serious dollars that you can leverage. And it used to be pretty easy before Trump changed the tax code. It used to be pretty easy because you could do all of that with a DBA. And I used to do that. I used to have like at least two side hustles going while I had my regular job. Now LLC is the way to go, which, it's like, I think it's like $200. I haven't formed an LLC myself, although I run an S Corp or a C Corp, I mean. I think, one of my original question for the accountants, which if I forget, or I don't make it, if you could ask it, was a lot of people are in the same boat where they jumped into NFT land, not forming any kind of a legal entity or business structure. And now that a lot of people are considering it, they're considering it because, like it was said earlier by, I think, Kate, that the amount of money that's tied up in NFTs is kind of worth the effort, right? The legal paperwork, filing of taxes twice. So transferring those assets from an individual to a business entity, I just don't know the best way to do that in terms of, is it a sale to the LLC? Could it be a transfer, a gift, a donation? So what kind of structure that is, because I think that's pretty important on.
Right, because even then if you're gonna do it as a gift, you're gonna run into the same exemptions. You're gonna end up paying taxes on the value beyond 15,000. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
If you're gifting them, you can't donate it unless you're gonna set up your corp as a 501c3.
Right.
We're speaking about the U.S. right now. I think maybe it sounds like Thursday is feasible to squeeze in one more of these, and I feel like maybe doing a maybe making a channel or like just having questions pre-prepared in the Discord for folks so that more of these can be answered is a good idea, because we've got 3 or 4 great questions that I'm sure are going to take a bit of time to excavate. So that's a good no. Like I think one of the the issues with opening up an LLC to deal with your taxes, beyond the fact that you might deal with double taxation, and you'll have to set, if not, you'll have to set up a pass through, is your buys and sells can't be backdated to a corporation you set up. Like if you set up a corporation right now, your trading that you've done so far can't be assigned to that LLC.
Right.
So for everything going forward, it might be advantageous from a tax perspective, but it's not going to change. It's not going to change your exposure now.
So I was going to say putting investments in an LLC by itself is not a tax advantage. Like having a company set up just to hold investments doesn't tax advantage anything. You're still paying the same tax rate regardless of what you're doing with it. The LLC would be tax advantage, like it would be a good idea if your business is minting NFTs. Then that's your revenue generation. But just to hold assets, investment assets like that, LLCs won't do you that much good.
I'm thinking more on the terms of the write-offs, right? So let's say, what do you utilize when you buy and sell NFTs as a day job, if that's a day job or a side hustle, right? You've got a computer, you've got a really fast internet, you've got a really great phone. You may have space in your home. There are things that
so to go away from NFT land and just go to regular investments, to spool up a company to warehouse your investments so you can day trade them, week trade them, whatever you're doing, is a big deal. Like that's not an easy lift. It's not just I'm gonna make an LLC and put investments in it. Like you're getting into more regulated space.
Right.
Gotcha.
That's why it's like I get where you're going and write off stuff. Oh yeah, but unless it's generating, that's your way of generating revenue. Like if you're minting them, like you're the person actually selling them, then I agree you can deduct things. But it's hard to deduct things when you're a day trader.
Yeah,
like it gets harder. It's not as easy as like I'm used to business. Like I have a business, and we write off everything because that's what you do in business.
Sure.
But like it's more difficult when it's just pure investment.
Right, and I imagine it gets even more complicated if you're blending the two. If you're making and selling NFTs, and you have that within an LLC, and you're holding investments and day trading within that LLC, if you don't keep those separate, you might run into some red flags. Karen, hi. I see your hand is raised. How are you?
Hello. Thank you for having this space. And I came in late. So I see there's a little
recorded.
Yeah, but where will I find the recording?
Right here. So on my Twitter.
On your page? Okay, perfect.
Yeah. As soon as the space ends, you can go back to it and listen in real time or scroll through. It'll be available through the same link.
And is there an expiration on that?
Not to my knowledge, but I will also be downloading it and posting it on my podcast. So there's certainly not an expiration on the podcast.
Okay, perfect.
The podcast is called Jeremy Knows. It's the same as my handle.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you very, very much. Very valuable bookkeeper, accountant, admin here. And yeah, taxes is always something I get asked about and have to work with. And it's just this whole new crypto world, knowing tax implications is something I'm very interested in. So got to get back and listen to this. Yeah, after it's posted. So thank you very much. Very helpful.
You're super welcome. Thanks for being here.
And Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Simon.
Jeremy,
I know you had a question. Do you actually hold this Shadow Me Scorpion in your banner?
I don't want to answer that question. A lot of people ask me about my wallet anyway, just with regard to what my position is of my tokens, and so I just say I'm not at the position, like I'm not comfortable. Because, do you know what I mean? It's not. The thing is, I get pulled into the trap of saying, "Oh, guys, what tokens are you holding?" And then I forget my position of like, "Oh, I'm just not too comfortable yet because we don't know the landscape
Yeah, I
And
get that.
obviously, if you're holding a heavy wallet and you bring that into a conversation, you don't want necessarily people to feel inadequate or anything like that. So I like to just flow with things. But what I was going to say, Jeremy, is sorry for to keep coming in and requesting.
Oh, you're fine. It's all
the
good.
app would like throw me out, and I was thinking either Jeremy doesn't like me or the app's not working properly. So I appreciate you choosing me on that one. There is a couple of questions and a couple of realizations, potentially just discussions. But do you know what? I'll let you lead once I've sort of spoken about what we're talking about. Hopefully they'll serve this audience, and I suppose that's the real reason why I'm asking these questions. When it comes to the assets that we're talking about here, if let's potentially say that I'm a VFriend holder, every VFriend is a six-figure digital artifact, regardless of where they are on the spectrum.
Okay.
And at the time of sale, I think it's important that we all realize that we're not just paying the taxation fee, which is between 22 and 35%, but we're also paying the VFriends fee and the OpenSea fee. And by the way, Jay, just jump in here and say, correct me accordingly, please do, right? So, and that leads to potentially an only just majority share that we end up having from releasing the NFT token. Is that fair to say? So, it will be like 46% or something like that goes to fees and the tax man, basically. Is that fair to say? If we're 33% tax, 10% on the VFriends fee, and then a 2.5% OpenSea fee, I think that's 46%, is it? That gets released from that.
Right. Well, yes and no. So let's simplify it a little bit. Let's say you hypothetically, you buy a VFriend at the auction for the equivalent of $1,000. Okay, I guess nobody did that. Let's say let's make it $5,000.
Yes.
And then you sell it on OpenSea for $100,000. Okay, so yes, you subtract the 10% royalty and the OpenSea fee, and that is what you would consider your capital gains. So that's 12.5% of $100,000 is 12,500. Stick with me here. It's like $85,000 that you profited, or no, I'm sorry, $85,000 that you received from the sale. Now, as far as the profit that you pay taxes on, it's that figure minus your cost base, which is the $5,000 you spent for the token. So now your profit is effectively 80%. $80,000. The reason why you don't want to, off the top, remove whatever 22 to 33% in capital gains tax is because, number one, that figure may change as you accrue more and more capital gains. You can push into a different bracket and the percentage will change. But number two, if you realize any losses, then it's all part of the same bucket, and then you get a percentage of the entire bucket.
Why would one accrue more capital gains in a scenario where it's essentially you're terminating the contract by releasing it? What scenario would present itself in order for capital gains to then shift, if that makes sense? So you said,
you mean the percentage?
Yes,
I don't know. I don't have the percentage or the figures offhand, but it's something like up to $150,000 is a certain percentage, and then up to $300,000 is a different percentage, and beyond $450,000 is the highest percentage in a year.
So I tell you what, to try and hopefully simplify it for because this is exactly the reason why I've got an accountant, right? So if for example we have one taxable event, which is I just sell one NFT, I buy that NFT for let's just keep it real simple. Say I get airdropped an NFT, right? So there's no residual value, and I sell it for $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
What ends up in my back pocket? How much money ends up in my bank after let's not talk about the fees of transferring from fiat to Ethereum. I mean, if we take into consideration the taxation fee, the fees from VFriends, because let's keep it relevant. Let's talk about VFriends. Fees from VFriends and the fees from OpenSea. How much of that 100,000 do I get? I don't mean to put you on the
Wow.
spot as well. Yeah, sorry, bro. I was
No,
literally
yeah.
just like, sorry, man. I was like, fuck.
No,
I realized
it's
I didn't mean to
it's
put
totally
it that way.
fine. It's totally fine. You know, I took a deep breath because number one, I'm not a professional in this. I'm just, you know, really my handle should be Jeremy knows so far. And number two, it depends on where you live. Like like in Canada, there are no short-term capital gains versus long-term like we have in the States. It's all the same bucket. I believe it's like Portugal or Italy. It's like you don't even pay taxes on crypto-related things. So
I think if we keep it really relevant to, if we applied it to like potentially your scenario, how much, if you sold an NFT for $100,000 and it happened to be a VFriend and it was on OpenSea, how much of that money do you think that you or someone in your position would see at the end of that?
I think the conservative estimate would be 50% or $50,000 because
sorry, go on.
No, well, no, I was going to say because there's still some discussion about whether or not NFTs are taxed at the short-term capital gains rate like they would for stocks, or if they're taxed at the collectibles rate, which is even higher.
Yeah, I think with that in mind, and I think with the audience in mind also, if, regardless of their VFriends holders or if they're not, because I think regardless of the project that you guys end up investing in, there's probably going to be a 10% royalty that the people, the project owners are going to ask for anyway, plus the obviously compulsory OpenSea. And so with that in mind, with that figure that you just shared with us, I think it's fair to say that the landscape of which we make decisions on NFT selling changes radically, because all of a sudden we thought we're sitting on six-figure NFTs, but actually we may not be. And I think, you know, and it goes, I think it flows nicely into, Jeremy, your insight and your value that you bring to this community of how you may not, we talk about realization of gain, but actually the realization of tax and the true value of our NFTs. And so I'm grateful for you for putting this together, because it's brought this realization to us about being more careful about selling an NFT and also acquiring an NFT. So I'm really grateful for that. I think I speak for the community as well. I think so I've always been singing your praises anyway, so I think that's a really important thing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, yes, if you're selling for, like, I know it's a common strategy to like mint a certain number of the same project and then try to sell one or two to cover your investment, when in reality you should be covering 150% of your investment to quote unquote have those other ones riding for free. Like, I just found a capital gains calculator, and I just plugged it in. So purchase price 5,000, sales price 105,000. Your pre-tax capital gain is $100,000. Now, the other factor in this is your annual taxable income, not your gross income, but your taxable income. That is not capital gains. That is just ordinary income. And that figure now being 180,000, I would be due $25,000. So like the marginal federal tax rate on short-term capital gains being 32%. So like to your question, in that tax bracket, where ordinary income is, I think, below whatever $100,000, 32% being the short-term capital gains plus 12.5% is basically 45% of your sale is taxes and fees in a short-term period.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. I do have another question, but is not related to taxation. It's actually related to book games, which I was hoping to discuss with you, which I'd hope would add value to your audience.
Yeah,
I was just gonna sit on the shelf, to be honest with you, and wait for anybody else who's got any questions about taxation. So feel free to bring me back in once anybody else has got any other questions, because I don't want to digress off this sort of So I'll just put myself on mute. But thanks, Jay. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, bud. Absolutely. Thanks for being here. Let's go to Vinci, and then we'll go to Matt. Migs, how are you? Hey, Vinci. I don't hear you, my friend. I don't know if it's just me, but I do not hear
No, no one can hear them. I don't think.
Damn, it always does this.
Oh, you're back. You're back. I hear
Okay,
you.
for sure. Yeah, I was just thinking of moving everything to like a privacy coin and just not paying my taxes. Is that smart, or I don't know.
Don't tell anybody you're doing that.
Yeah.
Rule 1: don't tell anybody
Yeah,
anything you're doing
for
that's
sure.
questionable. Especially when it's being.
Oh, you
still
can't hear
recording?
me?
Yes,
Damn.
still recording.
Yeah. What was that you said, Vinci?
Ah, damn.
I couldn't.
Yeah, never mind, dude. I'm like screaming into my mic. I don't. Damn.
Yeah, Vinci, you're getting rugged. I'm so sorry.
For sure. Peace out.
All right. Talk to you. See you next time. What's up, Migs? How are you?
What's up, Jeremy? Good afternoon, guys. Thank you for having me on.
Afternoon. You're welcome.
I wanted to see if by any chance you've touched base in regards to the VFAM not a DAO yet, the one that we're involved in for Christie's auction for the Gratitude Gorilla. Would it fall under the same category in regards to taxation from what we've been talking about or discussing in the past conversation?
Yeah, so taxation on your contribution to the DAO can be viewed the same as purchasing of an NFT. So, so like let's say you contributed the minimum of 0.1.
Right.
Well, whether or not you realize a gain or loss depends on when you got the Ethereum. So if you bought it in the days approaching the deadline, Ethereum was on a downtrend and you realized a loss, there's no tax due. But if you purchase your Ethereum anywhere under like $3,000 before you sent it to the vault, then you've realized a gain, and that profit, only the profit, not the total amount, but the profit. So, like whatever.
And that's after the
100 bucks.
That's after the royalty and all that stuff, right?
Well, there's no royalty because
not on this one. That's right. Correct.
Yeah, so it's just like buying any other, like anytime you buy an NFT, you've disposed your Ethereum, you've realized its value, and it is either a gain or loss relative to what you paid for it.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
got it.
so you can just treat it like that. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I will do so. Thank you so much for that. I just wanted to ask that question. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, my friend. Cool. I see a bunch of people in the room who had questions and they're like, well, this guy's not a tax expert, so I'm not asking my question anymore, which is totally understandable. But if let me check my DMs. If anybody has more questions, let me know. I've got a little more time to hang around. Oh, I heard a request. Oh no, I don't see a request. Okay. Well, I'll let y'all think about it. Karen, I see your hand. What's up?
Okay, one more question. I had somebody ask me about lifetime capital gains limit, and this is for Canada. They heard somewhere that in a lifetime you're allowed to have like 750,000, and that 750 is exempt. Is that only for like houses, real property, or does that have any effect or any consideration in the crypto?
That is so far outside of my knowledge base. I can't even wager a guess. I'm not really familiar with Canada, but at the top of the space, you'll see some pinned tweets. And if you scroll back to the tweet from, you have to scroll quite a ways back. Oh, I didn't pin one of their tweets actually. Let me go get a tweet from Manisha, who is here. She's a CPA in Canada, and she will have the answer for you.
Okay.
I haven't a clue.
Okay, I'll ask Manisha. Thank you. I follow her, so I'll just hit her up. Okay, I thought I'd see if I could stretch your brain or pick your brain. Okay, thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah,
this is awesome.
yeah.
This is just so helpful. Thanks.
Yeah, I think the question would really be like, if there's a limit on long-term capital gains, well, all capital gains are in the same bucket in Canada. So these NFTs are considered commodities in Canada, and I guess the question is there a separate exemption for asset-based gains versus commodity based gains, and what are the terms of that exemption? Because that seems a little odd that there would be a cap on those capital gains, but maybe that's just me disagreeing with the legacy laws. I saw that Slim had a question, but now they disappeared. Where'd you go?
Hey, Jeremy, it's Landon. I'm still here, although I'm pretty busy. But it might be useful to get like a form going, where we can have people fill out a form for next time. So I don't know what's a good format for that, but whether you want me to create a form or people can just ask a question or some kind of, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, like a form to ask questions or
yeah, like how you mentioned something in like I like Discord. I mean, not everyone has easy access to that. I mean, like I know for myself, sometimes I get lost in where the channels are and where to find stuff. But like if we had a Google like question form or you know what I mean, something so that we can just kind of capture questions and maybe even capture answers at the next one. So there's like a bit of a master, cheat sheet, not financial advice. I don't know how to manage that legally, but
yeah,
I'm
just going to direct everybody to the Discord where this conversation is ongoing. I can't make a form right now on the fly, but if you have questions that you want, I think we can make a specific channel for these tax questions, or we'll just organize it in the lounge. I would say join the Discord, and if we create a form or something else, we'll announce it there ahead of our next scheduled space.
Sure,
but that's a good point.
VDAO or
yeah, I just pinned a link up at the top of the space.
Okay, super. I think I'm in it, but sometimes I get lost in Discord. So
yeah, there's a lot to get lost in Discord. I empathize.
Thank you.
Simon, it seems like most people have had their tax questions answered or otherwise don't want to ask me. So do you want to ask me your book games question?
Don't want to ask you.
I mean, I'm not an expert. I'm piecing it together.
You're doing great. You're doing really well, mate. I hope that doesn't come across condescending, but like half the like jargon that comes out of your mouth, I'm like, I have no idea what that means, but I'm gonna stick with you for it. So I appreciate it. So yeah, man. Did you do like accountancy or something? Or is it just do you naturally pick up, sort of topics really well and sort of hold them really well? Is it a good learner or something?
What did you ask me? Did I do what?
Did you do accountancy or something?
Oh no,
because you like it seems so natural to what you're talking about, and I'm going either I'm dumb or everybody else knows what you're talking about, or like it's the other way around where it's like Jeremy just knows, which is what your name is, right? So, yeah, the book games.
Yeah.
So we spoke about it. I don't know if you remember, but we spoke about it in the game day chat yesterday. We just touched on it a bit, and I said to you, I don't know if you remember. So just for the guys that weren't there, I asked the question of, do we think it was going to be a play to earn platform? And you said no. You also went on to say, I don't think that would be a good image for Gary V, which is fair enough. And I think what's the question I'm trying to ask here? So what you're going to be presented with is a choice when it comes to book games. You're going to either burn to play, which is you take your tokens, you burn them, and then you create a platform for you to essentially play the game, or you hold them.
Yeah.
And so you're left with that choice. If you hold them, then you don't get to play, which means that what reward do you get from holding them? So then I suppose we can speculate on that. But also, I think the question is what I'm asking really. A game is entertainment, right? So we play it for entertainment. I feel like this game that we'll be playing may not just be for entertainment. I feel like there will be some sort of reward structure put in place. When I think about the rewards that Gary offers, it's either his time or his tokens. I think, unless someone else can sort of chirp up and say, actually, he can offer something else. And I'm thinking, I guess the question is just a discussion or sort of your speculations on just an expansion of what you feel would be the structure of the rewards of the game. Essentially, why would you want to play the game? That's essentially what I'm asking. Why do you think people would want to play the game, or why Gary would present that to people? Because he was so confident. Sorry to interject, just one more. He was so confident about the game. The reason, from what I saw in his communications, is he said, "I'm not going to release it over Christmas because it will take people's attention away from the Christmas period. And I thought, wow, that's confident. So yeah, it goes back to my question, Jay, of what do you think the reason is that people would want to play this game despite, just the whole flip it, thing, the mentality, if it's not going to be play to earn?
Yeah, great question. I think there might be some disappointment when this game is released and people realize that it's not a game. And I could be totally wrong on this, but I don't expect like a mobile game or a PC game. I don't even really expect like a puzzle. I think it's going to be very simple. Like you have these like number of prizes that could be like a VFriend 1, a VFriend 2 mint, maybe like a limited edition NFT within the book games realm that like you can't mint, but you can burn to get, like Gary could do anything really in terms of what he puts on his prizes. He could do FaceTime with himself. Like I've been wondering if he's going to take access and utility from other VFriend tokens and give it to book games. Like he's got the courtside cat, where if you own the courtside cat, you get to go to a Knicks game with him. Well, what if he puts that into book games and you have to burn like 500 book game tokens to get it, for example? Obviously, I don't know, but I think that playing the game literally just means burning the tokens. And like in the future, there might be an actual playable game, but I think in the early stage, the game is going to be a mind game before, more than anything else.
Yeah, thanks, I appreciate it. I think like people are going to get rewarded for whatever choice they choose to make, whether it comes to whether they burn their tokens or they just leave them the way it is. And so I think if people have got more than one token, they may want to think carefully about whether they want to keep some for just to see where that path, what I'm saying is whether they want to keep them and not burn them, just to see where that path leads them, and also potentially burn the other half to see where that path leads them. Because I think we both know the way Gary likes to run his shit.
Hello.
So I just got a final question, Jay, for you, if that's all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
It was just in a general, from your view, what do you see in terms of the predictions from? So we've lived through 2021. I don't know about anybody else in the room, but you and I were there for the minting process and the ups and the downs and everything else, and the way that mainstream brands have brought in their NFTs, whether it's Pepsi or Adidas, and so we've realized truths to that, like great benefits of certain things and sort of realizations of others. What do you see happening in 2022, and what do you see happening with VFriends in 2022? Just your predictions. So generally, and then VFriends specific.
Yeah, this is a great question. Anytime I get asked about what I think is going to happen in the future, I immediately think, well, I have no fucking clue. And secondly, for me, I think it's a much bigger factor of what happens in the macro crypto market. So like if, let's say in the first quarter of or first 2 quarters even of 2022, we see the blow off top of a bull run that everybody wanted to see at the end of the year. If Bitcoin doubles and we see a 6-figure Bitcoin and Ethereum pushes 8K and then Bitcoin and Ethereum cool off and we see like a true alt season, a quote unquote true alt season, like, many YouTubers and market analysts were calling for, well, then I would anticipate NFTs to sort of level off or dip in value while people tend to sort of price their NFTs in fiat. Even though we say 1 ETH is 1 ETH, like the truth is that most NFTs are still priced in fiat. And if that happens and we see the bull run, we see the next leg of the bull run go up instead of go down into a bear market, then I think that will provide a lot of proof, for for other corporations who are teetering on entering the space, and they're going to likely enter into, I mean, it depends on the type of company, but I think they're likely going to enter into NFTs before crypto because it's more conducive to the machines they already have. They already have marketing teams and copywriters, and they have front end developers. They're not making speculative plays on currencies. Then the big question is like, how many of those corporations get totally wrecked if people who have been holding for years decide to sell, and when we see a real bear market? So I think the macro of what is the next leg of the market look like is a big factor. I know that, to go to the second part of your question, like specifically VeeFriends, I know Gary is building this, and he said multiple times, with the anticipation of a significant winter, which for everybody that doesn't know, like a crypto winter refers to like a severe bear market where the value of cryptocurrencies corrects 50 to 80%, like it did at the beginning of 2018. And if it does that, I think that'll be really bullish for all of us who aren't overextended and aren't losing our house and home for that shift in the market, because the people who continued to play in the market during the previous bear market saw incredible wealth in the last year. So the people who have the conviction to build their NFT projects during the winter and can survive are probably going to be the ones that are strongest in the next bull market. But like, there's so much we don't know about, like whether or not there's going to be a super cycle and what would that even look like, because we've never really seen it before. I think specifically to VeeFriends, we're going to see like more corporate partnerships. I think we'll see like both ends. We'll see like Gary partnering with someone like Kellogg or Nike or Pixar, and simultaneously partnering with like very, very small upcoming artists and brands, and play into pop culture and wider reach demographics and corporations, and like start to see stuff play out. Like, I think VCon 1 will probably be a preview as to what like IP build will mean, like with probably before the end of the year, getting an announcement about like the first cartoon or children's book or animated series. And I think we'll probably also see a lot of people get really impatient as things stop only going up, and faith is lost, and people buying in for the wrong reasons gets revealed. And not judging those people, but like I think Gary's right that the like we don't know if all of these NFTs are highly inflated right now. We don't know. I think one thing that's so interesting to watch with Bored Ape Yacht Club is seeing like clubs and celebrities buying Bored Ape Yacht Club as like the new Lamborghini, which is incredible because it's lending so much credence to that brand. But like, I don't know how sustainable that market is if they're buying in, and I don't even know why they're buying. Are they buying in for the image and the commercial rights, or are they buying in as a speculative investment? I don't know. I anticipate a lot of people are going to get wrecked, and then there'll be a lot of FUD. And then the people who have the conviction to say, well, no, this is like a groundbreaking technology and it's just in its infancy, will ultimately reap the rewards in 5 years.
Yeah, I appreciate you answering that. I really struggle to see why VeeFriends as an encapsulated project isn't higher up on the Crypto Slam ranking, because I think it's like 16th at the moment, and Bored Ape Yacht Club is at like number 3.
Yeah,
I struggle to see that because I'm conscious of my time as well, Jay, because I want to lend the room to other people who've got their other questions. But I'll just finalize it with this. When we talk about a project, I feel as though it's about how well the community is being led by the project. It's essentially, we used to think that Twitter and the Discord members, the number of members along with the roadmap were indicative of whether the project would be successful. So for a project that had 10,000 followers 3, 4, 5 months ago and had a relatively good roadmap, people thought it was literally going to moon, which, by the way, guys, if you don't know what moon means, it means it's going to be successful. And as time went on, we found out that that wasn't a variable to a successful project. And I think when it comes back to the Bored Ape Yacht Club and VeeFriends, there were really similar times, and certainly the artwork was different. But when it comes to VeeFriends in its entity, it's a whole corporation of, it's not just Gary, it's Gary's companies, and he's had this CV of, historic action towards his community of how he served it. And when you look at, it's almost like a job description, right? Because we're going into these projects and we're saying, how can this project serve me, and how can it serve the community that it's lending itself to? And so when I look at the Vayner Corporation, I think, well, look what he's done over the last decade. Look at how he served this community. And I think in this case, we can judge somebody's future or have a good indication of what the future is going to look like by looking at their history. To the Bored Ape Yacht Club, Yuga Labs specifically, nobody really knew too much about them. They didn't know too much about the history and what they'd previously done in their actions towards communities. And so you could say it was a potential gamble, but certainly Bored Ape Yacht Club prevailed. I'm certainly not saying Vayner haven't led a successful project. What I'm saying is I feel like VeeFriends should be number 2, 3, or 4. And at the moment it's number 16. I'm struggling to see why they're just why that's not the case. So, but like I said, we're not professionals here, and we're all just trying to learn the process and get to a point where we understand things better.
I was going to say, I completely agree with you. I think the market's undervaluing VeeFriends. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense to me.
I think yeah, go on.
No, I'm in agreement with everything you're saying. I think it's undervalued for comparing it to who's running every other project compared to Gary Vee running this project. Like, what other project, for $100,000 can you get airdropped and $8,000 every month? Like, there's no project that comes close to that.
I think the other variable is, and I'm conscious of the people in the room here, but hopefully it's lending value to them. Is that when we look at these ingredients, I love DJ Khaled, I love Offset, and I love Mike Shinoda from Linkin Park. They're great at their field, but how well are they? Because DJ Khaled hasn't released his own project yet, but I'm pretty sure Quavo or Offset have, and they're rappers, they're musical artists. I would be hesitant to invest with them because how well are they? How good are they at leading a community to success? If I was stuck on a desert island, who would I want to be leading the group? And I think people should bear that in mind when it comes to investing, because these projects are not cheap. For example, Adidas had a project which was $800. The most expensive product that Adidas released was that NFT project, and not only that, there was like another $700 or $800 worth of gas fees on top of that. So it's a lot of money.
Yeah,
so there's lots of variables. Sorry, bro, go on.
I want to provide kind of the bearish case for VeeFriends, and then I want to pass to Motivate, who just came up here. Like, the reason that the market isn't valuing VeeFriends the way that you want it to is the same way it's because it hasn't been built yet. Like, what is VeeFriends? VeeFriends is a concept. Gary talks about ideas are shit and execution is the game. Well, he's delivered value that we can see and we know about for VeeFriend holders in the form of PLP and some specific airdrops. But he's promised a Disney level IP that doesn't exist yet. And so it takes a lot of conviction to buy into something when the space is highly valuing commercial rights, it's highly valuing refined artwork. People see Gary Vee not as an artist, but as a business person. And, you and I can agree that he's both, but until proven otherwise, I think VeeFriends are pretty accurately valued right now. People don't understand them because it hasn't yet been proven what they are. We might know some of the nuances of what Gary has said, and we can certainly inflate the value based on what we've seen Gary execute in the past. But but there's still the chance that Gary Vee can fail. Like, he hasn't done it in this space. And he's now becoming kind of a controversial figure in the space, where like a lot of the projects he supports, hordes of his community jump into without doing their own research, and they often leave like a negative impact on that project, like with people, you know, coming in just to buy for a quick flip and not really knowing what they're buying into, and then flooding what they just bought because it didn't double in 10 minutes. Like, you know, that it's, you know, for me, it's hard to say, well, that's Gary Vee's responsibility. Everyone should be accountable for themselves. But like Gary Vee is also driving that attention. So, you know, I think that's a big factor.
Thanks, Jay. I appreciate it. I haven't got any more questions.
For sure. What's up, Motivate? Good to see you.
Chilling. Nice to see you. I just want to say that everything that you just stated is spot on, and the biggest value proposition that Bobby Hundreds and Gary Vee have right now is by owning a piece of their real estate in the form of a token, in the form of an NFT, you are inadvertently a subscriber, right? You have paid for something that leaves you tethered to that person if you care to pay attention to it and its growth and its movements and more. But since Gary, who has Vayner Sports, has 137, has Vayner Media, has Vayner NFT now, has a lot of different things that he's tied to and attached to. And he's also a person of interest and celebrity to a lot of people. And he can pull a lot of favors with his reach and connections and rapport that's established and built, plus the companies he works with. That token gains that level of equity that you, as a token holder of a VFriend, basically get to piggyback on and ride the wave of. And I would say that should be a much, much more comfortable position than owning an NFT for some anonymous dev team that has no social media, that has no history, that has no patterns or anything of that nature. And I kind of look at it in the same way as myself, where, you know, I'm coming into this space, building communities, and I have pre-existing 13, 14-year running communities in the forms of music residencies in Los Angeles. And so, you know, being able to have that historic metric kind of builds equity and value into what I'm saying and how I'm saying it, and the chances of me delivering and executing on my words. So Gary puts himself on that line of saying things that he can't backtrack from, which holds him accountable, which should provide more confidence in the holders, because they know one way or another he's not able to just disappear and take down a DApp or a website that publishes this stuff. So you literally have like a perfect example of what can be done by a savvy, interested party in the space, as opposed to the celebrities that come in or the people that come in that, you know, they do the cash grab. It's something new. Let me hop in, let me hop out. Got my bag. Cool. NFTs were fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, you know, we like where Simon's posing the question from and where I'm coming from is, you know, having followed Gary Vee for 5 years or something. So like I have context, but for somebody coming into the space or coming to VFriends from the wider NFT community, from Bored Ape Yacht Club, and never heard of him, or Flower Girls or whatever it is, like they see Gary say, I will let all my other businesses die to make sure VFriends succeeds. And they have no, like they have no perspective that he means it. Like we take Gary, I personally take what Gary says at face value for his word. And I think that he wants to be taken that way. But like, if you don't know who he is, why would you be like, I think they're not, I don't think they're overvalued, but I think that they're incredibly expensive, not, you know, without having a deep understanding of who he is, the businesses he runs, the network he has, things he's done in the past. Like you have to have that context to understand why they're $40,000 to buy a token.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's where it's going back into historics, right? Historically, from the wine shop story to where he's at now, and the properties that are on display in the world that you could look up as LLCs or S corps or whatever as businesses, right? we would consider him to be a successful businessman / entrepreneur. So I wouldn't put it past anybody of that stature to not deliver and to not overpromise. You know, I would think that that's kind of where, you know, Bobby Hundreds and the Hundreds clothing line, like they're almost 30 years deep in this. And if you look at Supreme and you look at Joy Rich, Chinatown Market, Golf Wang, 10 Deep, Mishka, Fubu, Rockaware, Kuji, Kappa, you look at all of these brands in the streetwear world, in the fashion world, just like skate brands, right? And you start to see these outlying front runners that become like the legacy brands of today, right? Your Adidas, your Nike, your Champion, your etc. So to accomplish that in a independent way, in the way that Bobby Hundreds did, like he's got 25,000 holders. So what Bobby should be doing is all of those holders should be getting things that are unique to what he has access to and is capable of, as opposed to giving them access to things that were pre-existing, like a food festival off Fairfax in Los Angeles, you know? And so I think the difference of what he's got in it, like I would say Bobby Hundreds probably has more value in the NFT space than Gary, regardless of the floor price or the price of the NFTs, only because that's 25,000 new subscribers as opposed to 10,000, you know?
Yeah, I hear that. You know, it's something that I think also fuels Simon's question is we saw VeeFriends have a run up to a 24 ETH floor up to the Christie's auction and then fall down. And at around the same time, we had that kind of temporary bear moment where a lot of things, you know, where a lot of floors dropped 20, 30, 40%. And VeeFriends hasn't really recovered and the volume has been slow. You know, we're seeing 2 to 5 or 6 sales per day. So, you know, I don't know. And I sometimes wonder if Gary is kind of happy with being underestimated this way. And so he's holding off and sort of wanting to extend this moment where people had an opportunity to get in that are crypto natives that have 9-10 ETH to throw out a project like it's no problem and just to stick it to them. But Gary also doesn't control the market. And just because he makes an announcement doesn't mean that the floor will move. It really, there's so many external factors. And I think people are also realizing that buying VeeFriends is a long-term investment. You can't reliably buy VeeFriends and then flip it for a profit a week later, like you can with many other projects.
I think your point, Jay, about the the point is that because I'm scratching my head going, why isn't VeeFriends higher up on the list? Why isn't it more desirable? And you're like, it's because nobody knows who he is. And I'm going, that's right. You're completely right. And it's been this light bulb moment for me is that I'm thinking he's got 9 million followers, but he's still not well known enough. So I appreciate you lending light on that and sort of settling that internal conflict of mine of like, you know, sort of identifying why VeeFriends aren't doing more successful or being more successful. So I appreciate that. So thank you. With regard to, I mean, I think the thing is the landscape is going to change so much next year with bigger brands coming in. Our conversations are going to be different, and I mean, I'm sure we can chap on for around this, but
yeah,
I'd be interested to see. Sorry, I just got an internal call. Just interesting to hear Motivate. Would you mind expanding on Bobby 100's project? You say it's like a 25,000 project, and your sentiment was that you feel as though that project would be more successful than VeeFriends. Is that what you were saying?
I wouldn't say more successful, but I would say that in the metrics, right? You have somebody that has 10,000 units of something, and you have somebody that has 25,000 units of something. Just on that additional 15,000 units, like it should be a no-brainer that if the value is brought up, you have more supply. Therefore, if you get the demand there and you get the pricing up, then you should be jumping the shark, you know. But the execution of the Hundreds team and their atom bombs and whatnot just wasn't there. The hype and awareness was there when it happened, but now it's kind of like you got caught holding the bomb in hot potato, right? It kind of blew up in your face, no pun intended. So, you know, Gary making VCon, Bobby's very well connected in the entertainment industry from a underground independent artist side to top 20, top 100 Billboard charting artists. So, you know, I worked on their 9-year anniversary or 10-year anniversary, one of those parties here in LA at the Globe Theater. I got them set up at, and you know, they could have Drake and Kanye and all those, like they literally have access to so many different people that can be exclusively accessible through their token, which is their NFT, which is their 25,000 units. So I'm just looking at like, who's the creative strategy marketing director person that needs to make those plays and those calls happen and come to life, because that could very easily be a festival, 25,000 people, a festival. So, you know, you're going to see the price of the V Friends go up and anything in association to it with the V conference or whatever it's called that he's doing. And in the same way, like Bobby Hundreds has that same opportunity to do something bigger and better and with more people. So
yeah, I think another piece of this, Simon, is like you were saying, people not necessarily being aware of who Gary is or what NFTs are and Gary's project. Like I saw a chart saying that of the early adopters that will come to NFTs, anybody who's in NFTs right now is in the first 1% of all early adopters. It put another way, there will be 100 times more people like us who believe in NFTs and are trading in them before we complete the subset of participants that will be considered early adopters and we move into the next phase of adoption. So like, I think what VFriends is struggling with, or, you know, and Bobby Hundreds too, like the struggle is the opportunity, is the attention and communication of what value is coming. Like, just because you have 25,000 units and you could create a festival with those people, doesn't mean that people will get the message that they're invited to the festival, will have the resources to come to the festival. In the same way, like there are plenty of people who wanted to buy book games tokens. Like book games sold for $300 some if you pre-ordered the book. And in 24 hours, Gary sold over 1 million books. And based on like the attention to it now, you would imagine that twice that many books could have sold had people just known about the opportunity. So like, I think attention being that sort of, I don't know, unreliable asset. Like, I think all of us have a project that we're not following on a daily basis because it's just not the most important thing to us.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. You know, I've come into contact with people and they say, well, I don't have a V friend. And I say, well, okay, did you manage to get any books? And they said, no, I didn't hear about it. And I'm thinking, gosh, you know, I'm either really, really early, or unfortunately, these people who aren't picking up these tokens are just coming in a bit too late. So I appreciate you sharing a sentiment on that. Yeah. So it definitely made me think about things differently moving forward towards, you know, what's definitive of a successful project. So, for example, Motivate, do you feel as though the Atom Bomb project was not a success that you've, because I'm not privy to the Atom Bomb project. Do you feel as though it wasn't the success that you thought it would, or people thought it would be? Is that what you're? Because I did hear a couple of people talk about the Atom Bomb project, and they've got quite high hopes from it. But I feel from what you're saying, it's not quite there yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on what people consider a success metric, right? And for most people, money is that metric that defines success. Now, just getting a project out sometimes is success to others. And I think realistically, if we're just focused on the financial side of it as an investor or collector, yeah, you would say that it is a unsuccessful project because you paid more than you received. But from a collector standpoint, if it's your favorite brand on the face of the earth, and that is a memento or just one more thing you can own for that brand, and your entire closet is full of things from that brand, then it might be a little different. And I mean, I personally, like, I got out of the project and sold mine because I didn't see the value coming around anytime soon for me to get anything additional or special out of owning that thing. Now, will I regret that when he takes over the Los Angeles Coliseum with all of my favorite artists and has merch booths and gift bags and all sorts of other things? Then, and this is like knocking on wood, this is not on paper, I'm not endorsing the project or any project at this point, but you know, if he does that, then maybe I might be a little bitter and salty and buy back into it. But I think at the end of the day, it comes down to, like, what does it do, who made it, where is it from? It's the same questions that we ask when we purchase things and look at the ingredients in grocery stores and convenience stores and beyond. You know, you got to know the origin story, and you have to understand what it potentially can do. And if you look at it solely as an investment, you know, you're buying into a bad investment if you see the metrics.
I think the thing is motivated with. Sorry, Jay, do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, no, you're good.
I think the problem is that 80% of the projects that have been released this year, we don't know what the ingredients are. We don't know who the project leaders are. We don't know what they look like. We don't know what, you know, their mental health status is, or what they've done in the past, or whether they're set to be, you know, committing a felony or have done in the so all of these things. Because I think essentially the way you could look at a project is a hedge fund, because what you've got is you've got one guy or a group of three people at the top who are taking in huge sums of money from 10,000 plus people. And and once you've invested that, it's the actions of those people. What are you going to do with that money? And so when I watch YouTube, I see a program about, there's not a program, there's like an advert that was on today, something about some sort of fellowship NFT project. And they show flash cars and they say, we're going to do these yacht parties. And I'm thinking, yeah, they're going to do these yacht parties and they're going to be spending your money with, you know, to facilitate those yacht parties. And I'm thinking, you know, it goes back to my original sentiment that, you know, there's potential for rogue projects out there, which I'm sure we all know about. And I think as time goes on, we're going to shed more light on, and things are going to sort of become more, what's the word? Elusive, is that not the right word, but more, we're going to find out more about ways in which people are manipulating this market. And a prime example would be, well, I wouldn't call it a prime example, but I'm sure you guys are aware of the CryptoPunk that sold for $500,000, and somebody tried to tell me that it was an accident. And I thought, well, there's no accidents at that sort of level of transaction. And then we lead into, which it's a bit of a deep hole to go into in terms of its descriptive detail, but we lead into market manipulation and the way that things are not regulated, and how you can take a project or even a cryptocurrency, which unless everybody wants to get into, I'm not really too into sort of cryptocurrency, and you can say, well, I can boost the floor price of this through market manipulation, and then you can lead people into it who don't necessarily have the same education or are not too privy. You know, there's just prime examples of people that are close to us, people that are on this board right now that we potentially know that have, unfortunately, they've lost 6 or 7 figures worth of tokens through basic mistakes, and it's terrible to see. It's truly terrible, and I think there's another avenue which would be great to pursue at some stage, should Jeremy wish to, about ways in which people can become safer. And because at the end of the day, the landscape of the way these behaviors are sort of being introduced to us are always changing, and so it's always, you know, the conversation that we're going to be having in about a month and a half's time is going to be completely different, because there's going to be new contenders in there, and there'll be contenders that we know about, whether it's Aston Martin or Ferrari, and then those conversations, you know, about what decisions to make on those NFTs are going to be different from, you know, we're going to be talking about, I mean, right now this year we've been talking about projects who we don't know about their pedigree, whereas next year we're going to know about people's pedigree, and it's going to be a completely different conversation. So it's exciting and also thought-provoking about what next year is going to bring. So yeah.
Here.
Yeah, I didn't mean to stump the room. I hope that was helpful for some people. But I'm trying to be diplomatic, but I'm trying to add value to the people here. And I noticed that a lot of people are DMing me, and that's very nice. And I think it's important to, and Jay, this is your platform. Please interject if you feel like I'm hogging the mic here. I think that people should realize a few things, and that one of those things is that there are no professionals here. Regardless of your financial qualification, if you consider yourself a whale or an intermediate or an entry level, we're all starting at the same spot. And as Jay said earlier, we are all innovators and pioneers, and it doesn't feel like that, does it? It doesn't feel, we've got a room full of 200 people right now, and it doesn't feel like we're innovators. I feel I started too late. I started earlier this year, and people are telling me I started early, and I'm thinking, God, I should have started 3-4 years ago. I should have started back in 2012. But my investment proposition took me on a different path. And I think it's important for that to sort of to say, do not be intimidated by your own financial status, because there's room to grow. Whether it's on the Vive platform, where there's some entry level NFTs to get you to sort of get your feet wet with it, or if you want to define a new income stream for yourself with NFTs and day trading, which I'm sure people have got their own opinions of. It's an interesting one. It's trying to find a good project. What are the factors that contribute to a qualified project? And really, what I got to is it's not the roadmap. It's not the amount of followers on Twitter or Discord. It's the person. It's the person behind the project. And it took me a while to get to that conclusion. So yeah, it's just like, we could just talk about this for hours, and hopefully what we're talking about, despite us going, this is taxes, this is a taxes talk, but hopefully it's bringing value to people that may not have thought about these things, about ways, the best way. Because if you think about it, guys, if you take a typical income stream, which is perhaps you put $100 or $200 aside each month, and in 12 months time you've got $1,200, you by default you put meaning behind that money. It's 12 months, it's a long time. And so if you're going to shoot your shot with that, you really got to be clued up on where you're going and where you're going to put that into, because you don't want to be stung after sort of saving up that money, because money is meaningful for people. So yeah. Going deep down the hole now, right? So
yeah, well, no, I think it's fantastic. It's a good note to kind of end the space on, because what you're revealing is that people can be experts in the field that they came from, and they can be developing skills in the space, but regardless of how much, regardless, everyone is new, everyone is early. Like, you could be coming here and have no idea what we were talking about and still be early in retrospect, in a couple of years. And you brought up the reality that we need more time and more space to think about all of these things. Like, all of the topics that you just brought up, each of them could have their own dedicated space, and we would agree and disagree on how to take advantage of that opportunity, whether dollar cost averaging or how to evaluate projects or any of it, what the macro market is doing and so on. So very pensive sort of conclusion. I want to give Oz Prana a moment, as they just requested up. But
how are you? How's everybody doing?
Yeah, hey, what's going on?
Pretty good. So I was curious as to how people go about determining which cryptocurrency they want to sell their project under, from Polygon to Ethereum, and I guess what is the pros and cons of each choice besides gas fees? I know gas fees, but other than that.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think at this moment in the market, Ethereum versus Solana or Tezos or Polygon, they have a slightly different cultural perspective within the community. Tokens on it, and the reason that most projects launch on Ethereum is because that's where most of the market volume is. So if you if you're wanting your project to sell, there's going to be more participants on Ethereum than there is on Solana. That's just like by the numbers. At the end of the day, like, it's sort of what's right for you. Are you wanting to be a pioneer of pioneers on Solana, or are you wanting to learn within an ecosystem where there's, you know, billions of dollars being moved around every day? Not strictly in NFTs, but on the Ethereum network, in DeFi and otherwise. You know, there's a lot of market activity.
Gotcha. That makes my bad.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you're good. Another factor, like you said, is the gas fees. So like, if you're trading on Polygon, then you don't have to pay to list, and that can be a complete game changer for people. Some people don't have whatever $50 to $150 it is to list their first NFT on Ethereum, and so they get started on Polygon. Sometimes it's just practical in that sense, but I think there's like a market sentiment right now that, like, and I'd be curious to hear what's going on in some of the Twitter spaces for Polygon blockchain, because there's a lot of value in that. But I think some of the no gas fee benefits of Polygon are going to be mitigated by ZK rollups, which is another kind of technology. Like, you can deal on immutable X and get the lack of fees benefit on Ethereum as well. So I'm not really knowledgeable about the details of those pros and cons, but ultimately there's more market volume on Ethereum.
Makes perfect sense. If I'm being like just completely honest, I just got into the NFT space about 2 weeks ago. I've just been going hard with research, and I really researched the Bored Ape Yacht Club very, very hard, from their Etherscan, their website, just to see what all they did, because what I have learned within the last 2 weeks is there's a lot of business models as far as structuring your smart contract, as far as, you know, how you want to go about releasing the project. And the reason I started with them is they seem to be a successful model that everyone just dove into. So I'm not sure. And to be honest, I'm not super educated on how they became so successful, whether if it was marketing, affiliate marketing. I just don't know how they came about having their success, or if they were just a fucking phenomenon. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a good question. And like, the Bored Ape Yacht Club, I wasn't there in the earliest days, so maybe someone else wants to speak to this. I don't think they did a lot of affiliate marketing. I think they benefited from having a knowledgeable team with a long-term view that was centric to its holders, in the sense that they were giving commercial rights of the images, of the artwork, to their holders. And I think they benefited from a moment in time, the right people coming together to mint the project, and then, you know, several good choices along the way, because now there are hundreds of projects that have just tried to copycat their model and have failed, because they're like sort of faking the funk. So like, I don't know. I don't think there's not one thing that you can point to, I think, for the Bored Ape Yacht Club, because they also like continued to deliver. Like, they've airdropped hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars worth of tokens to people just for holding their tokens. Which not just anyone's airdrop is going to hold that kind of value. Like, they really built a brand by building a brand.
Go ahead,
Jay, here's a question for you. Do you think go on, Motive.
I was just going to say,
Jay, do you think if the Bored Ape Yacht Club released today, do you think it would be successful?
Go ahead, Motivate. I heard your question, Simon.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
might be getting a little
answers
delay.
his question. How about now? No.
Yeah, I hear you.
Maybe not.
Hello? Can you hear me? Motivate? No, I don't hear you anymore. Well, you're muted now.
Yeah, I think I'm
Hello?
getting rugged. I'm gonna have to leave and come back in order to get rid of this delay. But I
Okay,
have the answer
you got
to
it.
that question, so I'll hop back in a second.
Great.
And then secondly, to follow up with that question, once he gets back in here, I'm just trying to understand the technical side as far as the minting. So I was in a room with Motivate. That's kind of why I joined this room. And I had a lot of good questions answered. So as far as the minting process and doing the pre-sale, right? So say you get 3,000 out of your 10,000 minted in your pre-sale. So someone said that you actually don't need to mint the rest in order to reveal them. So I guess I'm trying to figure out what is the proper chronological order of revealing, the minting, and all that.
Sure. Yes, you can. This is not my area of expertise, but my understanding is yes, you can reveal a project before it's finished minting. We've done that at VDAO. You just want to host the files in a way that it can't be predicted by people who are minting, so they can't see the rarity or artwork of the next token. Otherwise, you have a problem where like people will be sniping rare mints, and there will be a lag when a common mint is up next. But yeah, you can facilitate that. You want to talk to a dev about that.
Got you. Thanks so much.
Motivate. You want to take the question about Basie and like if they minted today?
Yeah, I mean, a big component to why they were as successful as they were is because it was a project that was the first of its kind to, I guess, be compared to anything similar, which would be a CryptoPunk.
Yeah.
So, or a cat. But at the end of the day, a lot of that hype and buzz and awareness and interest came from Clubhouse, when you could have thousands of people in rooms at the same time. And if you give them a call to action, or you give 5,000 people advice, and out of those 5,000, let's say 3,000 tell a friend who tell a friend who tell a friend, word travels really quickly. And, the people that are, I want to say like 60% of those holders were derived from within the walls of the spaces that we were holding. Because I will say December, January, February, March, April, all the way until like, I want to say Bitcoin conference in June, I think it was, there weren't really conversations around NFTs and blockchain and crypto and DeFi as much as there were or is now. Like literally, we created the largest NFT and DeFi community in the world on Clubhouse through education every day, watching those rooms grow bigger and bigger and bigger. So I think a lot of it had to do with timing more than anything. Just like Clubhouse as a platform was super successful for that moment in time because of the fact that everybody was locked down and inside. And now Twitter Spaces being a new alternative, people are hopping into here and repeating the same tricks and the same games and creating the same projects. So, yeah.
So do you think it's first mover advantage?
Yeah. I mean, that's why they have whitelist and pre-listing and people that get early access, and then they do the public access, and then they do the double down. And there's a process, with anything. And that process is a marketing strategy and a creative strategy for a rollout.
Thank you a lot. Definitely gave me a good insight on the Bored Ape Yacht Club and how to move forward with my own project. Now, I think when I came in here, I heard you talking about Gary Vee and someone 100s. I didn't catch the full name, but I think you were talking about how one of them could have a better utility than the other. So based off utilities and what you have seen in the space, do you feel like there are some core utilities that should be within every project?
So Motivate was talking about Bobby Hundreds of the Atom Bomb Squad. So you can see I pinned a tweet up top with a link to their project. Sorry about that. I got a phone call. I don't. I mean, I don't think every project needs a utility. I think the market is really attracted to utility right now, but they're like the beauty of the space is there's not a one size fits all. Not every project needs to give away its commercial rights or be access to a conference or anything like that. I think it's not really a utility, and it might sound kind of it might sound kind of cliche, but like I think a utility that any project should have is like a sense of authenticity and honesty from the creator, that it's actually something that they are wanting and needing even to create, as opposed to like trying to serve what they think the community wants. Like we've seen that fail time and time again.
No, for sure. And I guess when I'm saying utility, I'm still getting very familiar with the terminology. So it's more so the incentive of what I'm talking about. So, having access to certain events, maybe other physical means, like, you get what I'm saying? Like, I'm just still on here learning. That's why I'm asking as much questions as I can, just to fully comprehend what's going on within the space.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really provide much information because then it falls under consulting, and I don't do that for free, unfortunately. But I will say that, yeah, some projects are fashion over function. Some projects are function over fashion. It's really up to you to define and shape what you want and what you have and what you need for your project. And each project is completely different. There's no like foolproof, bulletproof, guaranteed route of success. And that's why you see a lot of people mimicking other people's roadmaps. You go to 10 successful projects and you pull the best parts of all of those projects and bring them into your own. That doesn't necessarily mean that your project's going to automatically be successful or have anything close to what theirs did for whatever reason, because everyone is different. So realistically, as Jay just said, try to be unapologetically you and put forth your best authentic self and let that show, and the effort and energy put into the project cover all the bases with your who, what, when, where, why, how. Make sure projects also don't have to be 10,000 units or 8,000 units or 3,000 units or whatever. They don't have to be a PFP project. Like, there's just so many different directions people can go in this. And I think it's very easy to get lost in the sauce, but yeah, just take time, do your research, and don't rush, and don't put out something that's subpar because you think you're going to miss the boat.
I think it's an interesting discussion because we have a lot of projects which they serve a lot of different concepts. They do a lot of different things, and it's something that I'm not cemented on yet as to whether that is a unique selling point for a project. Is serving a community in a certain way that is different to anything else the way forward? Is that a way to win a community? And I'm not too sure as to whether that is the answer. I definitely think the answer is something community driven, community focused, and something that serves the community that you're trying to sort of captivate. How you do that is a real interesting question, and I'm really glad that you're here to talk about this, because I think a lot of our conversations, this is my own subjective experience, a lot of people talk about projects in terms of buying into them, and I've had a few conversations about people who want to build a project, and it's really nice to hear people, they want to, they've got these great ideas, and it's like, different ways of serving their community. And it's really nice to see and hear how people want to do that. So yeah, man. So thanks for being here. It's really good to hear that you want to build a project. It'd be great to see how that turns out from somebody who just comes into the field and says, well, I've been in there 2 weeks, and in 6 to 8 months time, or whatever your progression path is, to see what comes out at the end. Because I think people's needs, and guys, deliberate with me on this if you feel it's not the case, because I'm kind of playing with the idea as to whether people's needs within the NFT world change over time. Something that was...
Yeah. Of course they do. Absolutely. Yeah. Of course they do. This is super fascinating. I actually have to call it a space. I think for my 2 cents on this topic, like, the variable is storytelling and the ability to build a narrative around every aspect of this. Yourself becoming an artist, the art that you create, the community that supports your art, the community being the community, building up the community. Like for me, and I have a bias that like my profession before NFTs is as a actor and a street performer and a storyteller. So I have an outsized affection for it, but it really does, regardless of if you're in sales or marketing or anything, the story is the thing that allows people to care about it. And if people don't care about your project, then they're going to sell it when the price dips a little bit, or they're going to I don't know, they're going to lose faith more easily unless they have a clear foothold of where they're at in the story. Like I think the reason a lot of projects are struggling right now is getting people to understand that anything they've seen up to this part is still prologue. You know, like nobody has completed chapter 1, not even Bored Ape Yacht Club. Maybe Bored Ape Yacht Club, but like you understand my point. Like it's so early that people need to understand like they've read the first page, not the first book. So like I would encourage you through content that by participating in spaces, hosting spaces, anything you can, like tell your story and be consistent about it. And if you need to make a change in your story, be transparent about that change. You know, if your consistency changes, then talk about why, and don't shy away from changing your mind, because changing your mind is also a superpower. But on that note, I have to call it a space. I really am grateful for everyone. This is a super fun sort of macro and philosophical conversation in the second half. For everybody who jumped in to hear about taxes, we spoke to 2 CPAs, one from the United States, Kate, CPA.eth, and one from Canada, Money Manisha. And the recording will be available as soon as I end this. You can find their pinned tweets up at the top and follow them. Feel free to follow everybody in the space on stage, and otherwise join the VDAO if you're interested in that project. And otherwise, just thank you to William, GQ, Landon, Osprana, Simon, and Motivate for keeping me company up here. Great conversation, guys and gals.
Of course, anytime. Thanks.
Yeah, anytime, Jay. Thanks.
Hey, I know that was awkward with the delay and everything. My apologies. I had to mute my mic so that it would be clean there. I don't know. Maybe this was really awkward to watch, but just for posterity and all the rest.